Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Flashback, Masha, Tanya, Gladys, and others, the design. I asked, so when are we going to start working on the design of the studio? Melanie suggested, there is no time better than the present. Tanya pulled out her tablet, made a few motions on it, and enumerated my specifications. Masha would like mirrors on one of the walls, preferably the back wall, and exercise mats that can be removed. We need enough yoga mats for a large class. And we also need some sort of range with an oven in it, so she can make meals for her and Linda. Melanie commented, those are all certainly doable, however the range and oven could be an issue. Since we will have to get a zoning permit for that, could we substitute a microwave? Tanya saved me the embarrassment of admitting my lack of proficiency with microwaves and replied, no, it needs to be a range with a small oven. Gladys interjected, Melanie, don't worry, I will take care of the zoning commission. Melanie asked, is that it? I raised my hand and said, we also need a temporary area for children to play. However, I do not want to have a real childcare located in the studio. Gladys laughed. Masha, this is not school, so you do not have to raise your hand. If you want something, now's the time to tell us. Gladys emboldened me, so I said, I would also like to hire an assistant. Gladys queried, do you have someone in mind? I thought for a moment, then replied, yes, but I'm not sure it would be acceptable. Gladys said, Masha, tell me who it is, and we will make it work. I said, I would like to hire Louise, who is staying at my house. She currently works at the grocery store and has benefits. Gladys interrupts. So we will hire her and give her the same or better benefits than the grocery store. I continue. One of those benefits is schooling. She is already enrolled at the community college. Gladys dismissed the issue. So what's the problem? Hire her. This made me happy that I could help Louise with her life, since she had been my best friend and helped me with many things. Melanie commented, Masha, I think you forgot about a sound system. I remembered another thing that Tanya forgot and replied, yes, we will need a sound system for the yoga classes, and also I would like the front door replaced with one that is similar to the one in my house. And we also need to do something about the windows in the front, since it's too easy to break in through them. Tanya apologized, sorry Masha, I forgot about the door. Melanie had been writing the list on paper. She slid it over to me and asked, is there anything else we are missing? I looked at it and said, that should cover everything. Melanie replied, okay Masha, I will work up some ideas on CAD, and we will look at them in a couple days. I questioned, what is CAD? Melanie smiled while explaining, CAD is an acronym that stands for Computer-Aided Design. Gladys praised her, Melanie is a whiz with the computer. Melanie returned the praise with gratitude. Thanks to you, Gladys. Our meal came, and it was excellent. I even chopped up some of mine and gave it to Linda, who agreed the food was good. Flashback, Jack, Ben, and John. Midnight requisition return. Ben was doing a hell of a job and even ran over one Taliban scumsucker with an RPG. Then Ben yelled, Jack, we're in deep shit. I asked, what the hell do you mean? Ben replied, I checked the rear view mirrors and noticed we picked up one of those Taliban Toyota Hilux. How the hell they ever bought those were a mystery to me. Behind us, and it was closing all too rapidly. I told Jack, we have a Toyota chasing the truck and gaining on us. Jack asked, what should we do? I suggested, I have a few frags that might slow them up. Jack took a frag off my tactical vest and said, move to one side, and I will drop this scumsucker toward them. I moved to the left side of the road. Jack pulled the pin and dropped the frag. Unfortunately, the scumsuckers saw the frag and moved over just before it detonated. And then they began to fire at the truck. I swore, hell's bells, they're going to compromise the refrigerated trailer. Jack suggested, Ben, stop the truck, and I will put one of the frags up there, but I looked back and the Toyota had stopped. I suddenly got a bad feeling and locked up the brakes, getting the semi stopped in time. Jack slammed into the dash and swore, what the hell? I replied, Jack, they stopped, so I'm betting there's an IED somewhere ahead. Jack jumped out of the cab and began to shoot the shit out of the Toyota. He was rewarded with a cloud of smoke from the engine compartment. But we still had the issue with the possible IED. He climbed back into the cab and crowed, that will teach those scumsuckers. I replied, yeah, but we still have a possible IED to deal with. Any suggestions for that? Jack suggested, there are two possible ways to defeat the IED. One is drive like hell and hope they don't detonate it too close to us. And the other is to slowly work our way forward and hope we can see it before they detonate it. I didn't care for either choice, and then some rounds peppered the truck cab and made my decision for me. I put the semi in gear and floored the shit out of it. I wound up the engine until I thought it was going to blow, shifted gears and floored it again. I kept it up until I had this scumsucker flying almost as fast as when it wasn't loaded. Jack praised my driving. Damn, I didn't think that you could get this pig moving so fast. I replied, neither did I. I just hope like hell this works. I should have known better than to be saying something like that, as it was a sure way to jinx this mission. I no sooner got the words out of my mouth than an IED detonated in front of us, and the road was gone. I wrenched the wheel as hard as I could, felt the trailer begin to slide, but I knew I was committed now. We missed the hole from the IED by the narrowest of margins, and the trailer even stayed with us. I wrenched the wheel the other way, and we bypassed the IED hole. We were back on the main road and finally saw something good ahead of us. Flashback, Jennifer, helping Daniela cook. After she cleaned the chicken, Daniela began to cut it up and complained, "I forgot how dull this knife is. I had been meaning to ask Senor Donaldson to sharpen it." I smiled at Daniela and offered, "I can sharpen knives. It won't take long if you want me to do it right now." Daniela questioned, "Where did a young lady like you learn to sharpen knives?" I proudly replied, "Because Daddy is a Marine, he taught me. He also told me more people get cut with dull knives than sharp knives." Daniela handed me the knife incorrectly, and I complained, "Daniela, you never hand someone a knife with the blade facing them. Always give it to them handle first." She apologized, "Sorry, Senorita Jennifer, I did not know that." I took the knife, pulled out the sharpening equipment from the kitchen drawer, set it up on the work table, and began to sharpen the knife. Daniela remarked, "Senorita Jennifer, that looks very easy." I replied, "It's harder than it looks because you have to hold the knife blade at a precise angle while you sharpen it." In no time at all I was done. I tested it with my thumb and said, "That's what I thought." I rolled the edge. I made a couple strokes on the side with the roll, tested it again, and it was perfect. I handed it to Daniela, in the proper manner, and continued, "Make sure you wash it first." She washed the knife, went back to cutting the chicken, and remarked, "Senorita Jennifer, this is so much better. Thank you." She then began to prepare the aji sauce, which was a complicated process. Now I understood why she needed to start cooking so early. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. I stopped and said, "Ira, we should not run from Costilla. Now is the perfect time in which to attack him." Ira argued, "Mira, do you remember how he decimated us with gas? He has more resources than we do, so the smartest thing to do would be continue to hide." I informed her, "Ira, he will find us no matter where we hide, so I am going to attack him." Ira relented. "Mira, I feel this is hardy of fool, but because you are my sister, I will accompany you." Ira followed me as we went after Costilla. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. As I mentioned earlier, finding a coyote was easy since they were practically on every street corner. Many of them I dismissed because I didn't like their looks. I finally found one who didn't overly worry me, approached him, showed him my neck, and wrote, "I need to enter America someplace other than the border crossing." He looked at me and asked, "Why does a gringo need to sneak into America?" I wrote, "The reason is not important to you. The question is how many dollars?" He quoted an outrageous price, so I walked away. He grabbed my arm, which was a mistake, so I spun and knocked him on his butt and wrote, "No one ever touches me." He apologized, "Sorry, gringo. Perhaps we could do it for less dollars?" I wrote, "How many dollars now?" He quoted a better price. I nodded, and he said, "Be back here at sundown, and we will leave." I still didn't trust him, but he was the best I could do at this time. I decided to take in some of the local scenery while I waited for sundown. Present, Ben, Jens, and others, heading back to the cabin. It's good to have Fiona and James back. Jens is between them on the rear seat hugging the hell out of them when Fiona remarks, "Mama, I was so thankful to see Destiny when she came to get us." Destiny, who's back in her human form, says, "I had help from Mira, Ira, and your father. They created a distraction with all their firing." Mira added, "I killed 3 of the male witches." Ira stated, "And I killed an additional 4 of the male witches." I laugh and say, "I hope I killed some of the male witches." Fiona teases, "Papa almost said a bad word." I pull out my phone to call Tom. When he answers and I say, "Tom, we just rescued Fiona and James." Jens motions for the phone, switches to speaker mode, and Tom immediately blurts out, "What the hell? Why didn't you tell me?" Jens replies, "Tom, they were being held at a compound controlled by dangerous individuals." Tom scoffs, "Jennifer, what are you talking about? That sounds ridiculous." I yell, "Tom, triangulate this phone's location. This is where we rescued the kids, and there are still other captives, including women and children." Tom curses, "Why the hell didn't you wait?" I cut him off, "Because we didn't have time. Now get the location and send a SWAT team." Jens warns, "Tom, just be careful. These people are dangerous." Tom sighs, yeah. "Let me call Inga and get this moving." Present, Tom, calling Inga. "What the hell is going on? I thought Inga was supposed to keep an eye on the Blaines. Now I find out they have mounted their own rescue mission and have rescued Fiona and James." I call Inga. She answers and immediately apologizes, "Tom, I'm sorry to have allowed the Blaines, Destiny, and Mira and Ira to disappear. I swear, like hell they have. They mounted their own rescue mission and have recovered Fiona and James. Find the location of Ben's phone because they say there's a compound with many captives. Inga senses something in my voice and asks, Tom, what aren't you telling me? I reply, Jennifer went on with a bunch of nonsense about dark magic, but we know there's no such thing as witches. Inga responds thoughtfully, Tom, what about destiny? We know she has a unique connection to the spirit world, so why couldn't witches exist? I pause, realizing I hadn't considered that. She might have a point. I tread carefully with my response. Does the FBI have any protocol for dealing with supernatural threats? Inga chuckles, of course not. I humble myself and ask, so what do you think we should do? Inga replies, Tom, we have to save the prisoners no matter the cost. I complain, and if Jennifer is correct and the FBI agents get sick. Inga adroitly replies, then it will have been worth it. So I ask, how's it coming on tracking Ben's phone? Inga says, as soon as we're finished with the call, I will do it. I hang up the phone. Present, Inga, after Tom's call. I march into the FBI command center and announce, Ben and Jennifer have found and freed their children. Pandemonium breaks loose, then I add fuel to the fire. Not only that they said there were other prisoners at their location. Now I suggest that we track Ben's mobile phone to find out where they were located. The agent in charge complains, how the hell did they get away from here? I reply, I don't care about that. What I care about is finding the other hostages. Gretchen comes into the command center and announces, Jennifer disabled the drones and the comm system. I look at the agent in charge and answer, there's the answer to your question. He swears, I should arrest her when she gets back. One of the other agents says, I have triangulated the signal on Ben Blaine's mobile phone. The lead agent says, come on, let's roll. They headed out of the command center, and I did feel a little uneasy about not telling them about the possible danger. I look at Gretchen and ask, shouldn't you get the drones and the comm system working again? She mutters, I can't believe Jennifer did that to me. I thought I was better than that. I smile at her and say, don't feel bad about it because Jennifer has hacked many systems in her past. Gretchen comments, I think I would like to hear about that after I get the comms and drones working again. She leaves. I take out my phone, call Tom and report. Hi honey, the FBI is on its way to the compound. I can tell Tom is a little flustered by my response to him, so he dodges the bullet by misdirection. Did you tell them about the witches? I giggle and bother him a little more. What do you think, honey? He says, I can't believe you didn't tell them. I giggle and reply, and as a result of mentioning witches have the FBI think I'm crazy? You know you're the only one I'm crazy about. Tom mutters under his breath, and I remind him, don't forget Mabel is cooking tonight. He says, goodbye. I will be there later tonight. Our love, it is a mini splintered thing. Gretchen calls on the comm and announces, at least I have the comm working now. The drones are going to take longer. I tease her, what did Jennifer do to them? She practically swears, I think she deleted the operational subroutines for them. How? How she was able to do that I have no idea. Tom had filled me in on some of Jennifer's hacking escapades when she was younger, so I wasn't surprised. I ask, is there any way to tap into the FBI communications? I'm concerned with what's going on at the kidnapping site. Gretchen says, now that I can probably do, but I will need your comm device because it's keyed to theirs. Then I will need to connect it to the antenna to boost the range. I reply, I will bring my comm headset right down. I do have some concerns about what the FBI SWAT team will run into at the compound and wondering how they are doing sparks my curious nature. I head to the computer room in the basement, walk in and hand Gretchen my comm unit. She begins to work and asks, so what can you tell me about Jennifer's hacking experience? I smile at her and say, Jennifer was a child prodigy on computers, and like all child prodigies, she pushed the limits of some laws. It was only the intervention of one of her college professor that kept her out of jail. Gretchen remarks, college professor, how old was she then? I think for a moment and say, I think she was 12 or 13. Gretchen continues, how did the professor keep her out of jail? I reply, he convinced the utility company which was hacked to hire Jennifer to fix their security issues. It's like a light goes on in Gretchen's head and she stutters. So Jennifer is the one that is responsible for fixing all the utility problems. I respond, that's right. Now how's it coming on the FBI comm? She flips a couple switches and we hear the FBI SWAT team. Okay, we're at the location. Squad 1 take the right flank, Squad 2 the left flank. Remember there are women and children hostages, so no unauthorized firing. The order is given to attack, and then we hear, shit, this place is empty. Look, there are the cages and there are some houses, but no one is here. One of the agents asks, are we sure we're at the right location? There's a reply, hell yes, we're in the right location. How did they move so many people so fast? Another question, are we sure what the Blaines saw? Perhaps they don't know their butts from a hole in the ground. I figured out that I needed to call Tom again and give him the bad news. Flashback, Masha, Tanya, Gladys, and others. finishing lunch. Lunch was over. I graciously thanked everyone for the meeting and then asked Tanya, "Will you please take me home?" Tanya agreed. "Once Gladys takes me to my car at the studio, I will." Gladys replied, "Don't worry, Masha. We will get you home soon. First, I want to ask Melanie when the designs will be finished so we can look at the plans." Melanie provided the answer. "Give me about 3 days. I will generate 5 or 10 different ideas, and we can choose from the best or even combine several of them." Gladys asked, "I assume the meeting would be best held at your office." Melanie said, "Of course, because we can project the designs on the screen and do a real 3D walkthrough." I questioned, "What is a real 3D walkthrough?" Melanie explained, "You will see the actual design on the computer screen, and we can move through the room just as if you're walking through it." I replied, "That's amazing. I never knew you could do that on computers." Tanya asked, "Masha, do you have a computer?" I replied, "No, since I never saw a need for one." Tanya replied, "I figured as much when I saw your mobile phone. It's a dinosaur." I pulled out my phone, and almost everyone laughed at it. To diminish my embarrassment, I complained, "Hey, I don't make many calls on it, and it serves that purpose well." Tanya asked, "Masha, did you know you can use your mobile phone for things other than making phone calls?" I confessed, I did not know that. "What other things can you use a mobile phone for?" Tanya explained, "For one thing, you could use it to video chat with your husband, Jack." Melanie interjected, "You can also do that with a computer. I know they have that set up overseas for all the military." Gladys ordered, "Tanya, I want you to take Masha to a computer store and a phone store and get her set up with a new computer and a new phone." I start to complain, but Gladys declares, "And make sure I get the bill for it." Melanie added some comfort. "Don't worry, Masha. I will come over and give you lessons on the computer. That is, if I can take some of your free classes." I was taken aback at how fast things were moving. Gladys took us back to the studio. We walked around back, and I was shocked at who waited for us. Flashback, Jack, Ben, and John. Midnight requisition return. After Ben's excellent driving and missing the IED hole, we finally had a lucky break. There was a Marine Humvee in front of us headed in the same direction. Ben floored it and said, "Jack, get on the radio and tell them we're friendlies." I asked Ben, "You mean the radio we don't have?" Ben glanced at the dash and swore, "Son of a bitch, how did we ever get a semi without a radio?" We needed some way to convince the Marines in the Humvee to not open fire on us. I announced, "Okay, does anyone have any idea how we can tell the Humvee we're friendlies?" John replied, "There's an American flag back here. It's sort of dirty, but it might work." The Humvee had noticed us, and I watched as the turret gun spun our way. I yelled, "Give Jack the flag." Jack put that across most of the windshield. John handed the flag to Jack. Jack did as he was told, and we watched as the Humvee slowed to a stop. I pulled up behind them, hopped out of the cab, and said, "Thanks for not blowing our butts away." The Marines said, "You should have called us on your radio. Coming up on a convoy like that is a good way to get killed." I explained, "Sorry, we must have the only semi in the Corps without a radio in it." John came out of the cab. The other Marines noticed him and asked, "Don't tell me you guys did another midnight requisition run." John smiled and said, "We sure did, and we really hit pay dirt this time." They laughed like hell as John told them about all the food. I cautioned John, "With as many rounds as the refrigerated trailer took, there will probably be some bullets in the food." The other Marines suggested, "We can pull the Humvee over and patch the holes with duct tape." I wondered, what about the convoy? They replied, "We now escort the convoys with 2 trailing Humvees because the Taliban have been using those damn Toyota pickups to chase us." John excitedly said, "Yeah, they chased us with one of those, but then they suddenly stopped. We figured there was a problem ahead, and we almost got blown up by an IED." Ben did an amazing job dodging the hole in the road. The Marines stood a little straighter, and one of them said, "So, you're the famous Ben." Jack crowed, "That's right, he's my sniper." I gave Jack a more than friendly punch in the arm and replied, "And Jack is my spotter, when he's not too busy." The Marine asked, "Busy doing what?" I laughed and lied. "Well, when you get as old as Jack is, you need more sleep." They began to laugh, then John ruined it all by saying, "When Jack was training me, he didn't sleep that much." That got the other Marines going, so they teased the hell out of Jack. "We sure as hell didn't know you could cook." The other one said, "Hell, I heard he even burned an MRE." I laughed and added, "Hell, he probably just made a meal refusing to exit taste better." Jack put the kibosh on the teasing and ordered, "Okay, you two, let's get the holes patched in the trailer and catch up to the convoy." I hindsight, it was a good idea that he did. Flashback, Jennifer, helping Daniela cook. The first thing Daniela did was clean some potatoes, then put them in a pot of water to boil and added a couple of eggs. I asked, "What are the potatoes and eggs for?" Daniela explained, "Those are papas amaryllis." I forgot to tell you that the sauce is poured over the rice and the papas amaryllis. I will garnish each plate with the eggs. Next, she took 4 slices of white bread, put them in a bowl, and poured some evaporated milk over the bread. Next, she put the chicken in a pot and poured something over it. I asked, "What did you pour over the chicken?" She explained, "It is chicken stock that I saved in the refrigerator." She brings the chicken and the stock to boil and said, "We cook it until it is just cooked." While she's waiting for the chicken and stock to cook, she begins to take the stems and the seeds out of the peppers. Daniela asked me, "Senorita Jennifer, would you please chop these pimentos amarillos into very small squares?" I commented, "Daniela, we have a food processor that can do this much better than I can." I show her the device and she said, "I do not understand this machina." I explained, "This machine will chop the peppers better and faster than I could ever do it by hand." I put the peppers into the machine and Daniela asked, "Can we add a little aceite vegetal while we process it?" I took the vegetable oil, put a small amount in the food processor and turned it on. It made a pleasant-looking yellow paste. Daniela took 2 cloves of garlic and peeled them. Then she took a large onion, chopped it finely with her newly sharpened knife, added the pepper paste to a skillet, and began to cook it. Daniela remarked, "We cook this just until the onions are soft and golden." It didn't take long, then Daniela set it aside to cool. Daniela asked, "Can we use the food processor for the bread, Parmesan cheese, nueces, and the onion mixture?" I replied, "We sure can." I cleaned the food processor, put everything in it, and blended it until it was smooth. Daniela put the onion mixture back into a pan, added half of the chicken sauce, which she had saved, and began to slowly cook it. She asked me, "Senorita Jennifer, would you please pull the chicken off the bones in very small pieces?" I didn't like this idea, so I replied, "Daniela, can you do that? I will stir the mixture in the pan." Daniela finally figured it out and said, "Senorita Jennifer, I see you do not like to touch the chicken." I confessed, "Daniela, Mother always bought chicken breasts, so I am not used to a whole chicken." Daniela didn't complain. I watched as she easily tore pieces of the chicken off the bones with a knife and her hands. The bigger pieces she put on the cutting board and sliced into smaller chunks. We added the chicken to the sauce mixture and slowly stirred until it thickened. She looked at the clock and complained, "Dios mío, I have not done the rice yet, and I need to clean up and get ready for Jed." I saved the day when I offered, "Daniela, I will put the rice in the rice cooker and make it. Just tell me how much you need." She said, "Senorita Jennifer, we need about 2 cups of rice." I measured the rice and the water, put it in the rice cooker, and turned it on. Daniela headed to the bathroom to make sure she looked presentable as I waited for Jed. He arrived a few minutes before 6. I opened the door, and he looked surprised and tried to hide the flowers behind his back, with very little success. Jed blushed and asked, "Where's Daniela?" I replied, "We've been cooking all afternoon, so she is in the bathroom at this moment making herself beautiful." She came out of the bathroom, and I noticed she had changed out of the running shoes I had given her. This disappointed so much I vociferously complained, "Daniela, where are your running shoes?" She said, "Senorita Jennifer, I am not comfortable wearing them in front of Jed." Jed entered into the discussion, "Daniela, you have running shoes? Why haven't I seen them before?" I explained, "Jed, we went for a walk earlier where she wore them and said how much better they made her feet feel. She was supposed to wear them tonight too." Then I threatened, "Daniela, what did I tell you I would say to Jed if you took them off?" Daniela looked frantic as she begged, "Please, Senorita Jennifer, do not tell Jed." Jed asked, "Tell me what?" I laughed and said, "I threatened to tell you that Daniela wants zapatos verdes." Jed took control. First, he handed the flowers to Daniela. How he had kept her from seeing them for so long, I don't know. Then he said, "Daniela, I bought these for you. However, if you are too embarrassed to come for a walk with me, then I will take them and leave." Daniela backpedaled, "Please, Jed, do not leave. I have a wonderful dinner for us, and I want to walk with you later. I will even wear the second-hand shoes." With the situation settled, we finally sat down to a great dinner. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. We approached the area of Costia's former location and found the decimated men. However, Costia was not evident. Ira complained, "Mira, we need to leave as our present activity is dangerous." I replied, "My sister, you possess false pretenses if you assume any danger resides in this local. Your assumptions are the same solidity as flatulence from your alimentary canal." Just then Costia appeared with another group of men and announced, "I knew if I waited long enough you two would come back. Take the men." The men charged us and we fought ferociously. However, the men were too numerous and ultimately overcame our efforts. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. There is hell, and then there are places that I feel are actually worse than hell. Having been close to going to hell many times myself, I consider myself an adequate judge. And this was one of the worst places I had ever seen. As I walked down the streets, people tried to sell me everything. The worst was when a boy of about 10 years old came up to me and said, "Gringo, you want sex with my virgin mother?" I shook my head no, but he continued, "Perhaps sex with my virgin sister. She is only 10 years old." It made me so sick that I decided to head into a local cantina and try a beer. Present, Ben, Jens, and others, heading back to the cabin. We bypassed the FBI SWAT team as they are mounting the raid on the compound. They try to flag me down, but I haul toward the cabin. I listen closely and am surprised I don't hear any weapons fire. Mira suggests, Mr. Blaine, would it be possible to stop the truck so Ira and I can ride our motorcycles? Ira agrees. Yes, Mr. Blaine, it is crowded in the rear seat. I had noticed it, but chose to stay quiet. As I prepare to stop the truck, Jens suddenly says, Ben, please don't stop right now. I think we're being followed. That grabs the twins' attention, and they start looking around to see if we're actually being pursued. Mira scans the surroundings and says, I don't see anyone behind us. Destiny insists, Ben, roll down the window and slow down a bit. I want to check this out. I comply, and in an instant, she transforms into a wolf and leaps out of the window. I immediately hit the gas, making a sharp turn and power sliding around the corner. Jens smirks and says, and you complain about my fast driving. Mira chimes in, confirming my thoughts about Jens' reckless habits. Mr. Blaine is only trying to escape our pursuers. You, on the other hand, drive like you have a death wish. I bite my tongue when Fiona even confirms, yes, Mama. When you drive sometimes you scare me and James. Jens defensively counters, hey, I've never been in a wreck. James meekly adds, Mama, Fiona is correct. You scare us with your driving. Just then I slide the butt end of the truck out around another corner, and Fiona remarks, Papa sometimes scares us too. I see Destiny approaching from the back, so I slow the truck, and Jens complains, Ben, why are you slowing down? I inform her, Destiny is back and wolves can only run about 40 miles per hour, so I need to let her catch us. Mira, please open the back window. Mira opens the back window, and Destiny launches into the bed of the truck with a mighty leap. She crawls through the window, retakes human form, and says, Ben, something is dreadfully wrong. Even though it looks like the compound is empty, I can still smell the prisoners in the cages, and some of them even spoke to me and asked for help. I glance at Jens in the rearview mirror and ask, Jens, do you have any idea what's going on? Jens replies, Ben, I really don't know anything about black magic, but I am assuming it must be some sort of blocking enhancement. I continue the questions. Any idea how to counteract the spell? Jens apologizes, Ben, I don't have any idea. We need to meet with grandmother again. Destiny concurs, Ben, Jennifer is correct. We need to have another sweat lodge ceremony. Mira starts, Ms. Blaine, we would be interested. Ira finishes. In participating in this sweat lodge ceremony. Thank God Destiny puts the kibosh on that by saying, sorry, but you cannot participate in the ceremony. Ben, Jennifer, and I are the only ones who can participate. If you participate, we might not be able to contact Jennifer's grandmother. I decide to change the subject. Mira and Ira, have you given any thought into moving back into the cabin with us? Fiona responds, Papa, it would be wonderful if they could live with us. James adds, I agree, even if they do speak sort of funny. Mira starts, Mr. Blaine, we would love to come back to the cabin. Ira finishes. However, we cannot leave Alexei without protection. The work he does for Ms. Summers has made him a target. I question, so who is protecting him now? Ira starts, we are hoping that Ms. Summers has sent someone. Mira finishes. While we have been away. Ira continues, all the babies at the house make it impossible to live. Mira finishes, and the smell of the dirty nappies is revolting. Fiona asks, how many babies does Alexei have? Ira replies, Alexei has 3 wives and I have no idea how many babies are in the house. Fiona remarks, how can Alexei have 3 wives? Mira explains, he married them in Kazakhstan where it is legal to have many wives. James says, I do not know why someone would want more than 1 wife. Jens hugs him and says, that's my boy. I am perfectly happy with your father as my one and only. Present, Inga, calling Tom. I decide I need to bite the bullet, so I call Tom. He answers and asks, so what's the news? I inform him, the FBI SWAT team says the compound is empty. Tom counters, Inga, how could they have moved everyone so rapidly? I reply, Tom, I have no idea. Why don't you call Ben and ask him? Tom says, I'll do that immediately. Present, Tom, calling Ben. I hang up with Inga and call Ben. He's got a hell of a bunch of explaining to do. Jennifer answers his phone and says, Tom, you're on speakerphone. Sorry, Tom, but Ben's busy driving the truck. What do you need? I demand, what the hell is going on? The FBI SWAT team says the compound is empty. Destiny responds, Tom, the compound isn't empty. We believe there's some kind of cloaking spell preventing people from seeing them. Tom scoffs, yeah, right. And how exactly do you know that? Destiny replies, Tom, I returned to the compound where I could smell the prisoners, and some of them even talked to me. Tom swears, so what the hell should we do? Jennifer replies, Tom, when we get back, we will contact my grandmother again to see if she knows a way to counteract the spell. Tom asks, How should we explain this to the FBI SWAT team? Then he continues, shit, Inga just sent me a message. I need to call her immediately. He hangs up the phone and I remark, well, that was interesting. Present, Inga, calling Tom. I try calling Tom, but his mobile phone is busy, so I send Tom a 911 text message, which means I need to talk with him now. Then I call him and say, Tom, you're not going to believe this. He interrupts. Hell, after what Destiny and Jennifer told me, I might believe almost anything right now. I tell him, the FBI SWAT team is getting sick and they don't know why. I think for a moment and continue. What did Destiny and Jennifer tell you? Tom pauses for a moment and says, Destiny believes the prisoners are still in the compound, locked in cages. She can sense their presence, and some even spoke to her. Jennifer suspects that a cloaking spell has been cast over the area, making them undetectable. What's the status of the SWAT team? I explain, they're experiencing unusual symptoms, nausea, dizziness, ringing in the ears, and other unexplained ailments. Tom considers this and wonders, maybe there's some truth to this theory about a supernatural barrier. I'd suggest having them fall back to the cabin until we figure this out. After he hangs up, I turn to Gretchen and ask, can we communicate with the SWAT team? She smiles and says, of course, just press this button when you want to talk. I press the button and suggest, I would suggest that you guys fall back to the cabin until you start to feel better. The SWAT leader complains, I sure hate to do that with this whole empty compound here. I continue, I will explain everything when you get back to the cabin. I hear the leader signal, let's head back to the cabin. As they leave the area of the compound, they remark on how quickly the health of the team members begins to improve. Flashback, Masha and Tanya, an unexpected surprise. We walked around toward the back of the studio to retrieve Tanya's car and were shocked when John Rowe was waiting for us. He declared, I should have known you two would be together. He glared at Tanya and continued, that was a hell of a plan to get me in trouble with my wife, and I can't believe that you're her lawyer. Tanya unwisely taunted him. Well, if you can't keep your tool in your pants, then you don't deserve to have a wife. John threatened, I should use my tool to teach both of you bitches a lesson. I ordered, Tanya, stay behind me. I will handle this. John laughed and said, what are you going to do? Kick my butt. I advised him to proceed with caution. If you do not cease and desist, I certainly will kick your butt. John mocked me, cease and desist what? I haven't even started yet. Tanya quietly stepped behind me and whispered, Masha, I'm recording this confrontation on my phone, so don't worry about any actions you may need to take. John reached behind his back, pulled out a gun, and said, now we're going to find out just how obedient you both can be. Who wants to go first? Before Tanya could respond, I pleaded, please, John, don't do this. John laughed, pointed the gun at me, and said, okay, Masha, you're first. Get on your knees. I pretended to be frightened, lowered to my knees, and waited until he approached me. When he got close enough, I jumped up, disarmed him, and tossed the gun toward Tanya. I then proceeded to release my anger upon him. After only a very short period of dealing with my anger, he pleaded, Masha, have mercy on me. I expressed my disbelief. You attacked us with a gun, and now you plead for mercy? I knocked him out with a final blow, and Tanya said, Masha, that was great. I angrily replied, I wanted to break some of his bones, but I restrained myself. Tanya said, well, I have a video of it, so we should be fine. Let's call the police. Tanya made the call, told them what happened, and after she hung up, she said, they will be here in about 10 minutes. Not believing her comment, I asked, is 10 minutes the normal response time for the police department in this city? Tanya replied, normally it's longer than that, but they consider this an emergency and have expedited their response. My anger toward the police department rose quickly to an almost uncontrollable boil. Flashback, Jack, Ben, and John. Midnight requisition return. The Humvee pulled alongside the trailer, and the Marines began to patch the holes in the trailer with duct tape. This was important to keep the food cool during the rest of our trip. One of the Marines remarked, this trailer is shot to hell and back. You guys must have been in a hell of a battle. Jack interjected, you're damn right. We were in a hell of a battle. I noticed something, pointed, and said, it looks like we're going to have company. One of the Marines said, shit, it's one of those damn Toyotas. I asked, you mind if I take some shots on your Madus? The complaining Marine answered, sure, knock yourself out. Since I was on top of the Humvee helping them with the tape, I quickly slipped into the turret, took aim at the Toyota, and let rip a short burst. Smoke poured out of the Toyota, and then things really went to hell. Flashback, Jennifer, eating dinner. Jed remarked, this is the best aji de gallina I have ever tasted. Daniela said, Jed, it is the normal aji de gallina my mother taught me to make, and Senorita Jennifer helped me prepare it. I countered, Jed, don't listen to her. She made it almost completely by herself. Daniela surprised me when she said, Jed, Senorita Jennifer does not know how to clean a pollo. Jed laughed and answered, "That doesn't surprise me." He looked at me and continued, "I bet that your mother only bought chicken breasts." I grinned at him and admitted, "That's right." Jed continued, "That's what I do too, since a whole chicken is too much waste." Daniela countered, "That is not true. I use almost every part of the chicken. I even use the bones for making chicken stock." Jed laughed and admitted his own habit. "If I need chicken stock, I buy it." Daniela looked amazed and questioned, "You can buy chicken stock at the store?" Jed answered, "Of course. You don't think American women would make their own chicken stock?" I grinned and added my 2 cents. "No way. It's too much work." We finished dinner, and I said, "Why don't you two take a walk while I clean up the dishes?" Daniela fretted, "But Senorita Jennifer, that is my job." I explained, "Not tonight. It's the dishwasher's job, and I'm a skilled dishwasher." Then I reminded her, "Don't forget the running shoes." I began rinsing the dishes and watched as Daniela changed her shoes. Jed remarked, "Daniela, those are nice shoes. There is no need to be embarrassed by wearing them." It felt good to watch them leave together hand in hand. Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. Yes, Kostia and his new men captured us again. I did not look forward with pleasure to what was coming. I looked at my sister Mira and was shocked because she didn't fight or resist in any manner. Then I remembered that Kostia remarked how they liked it when we fought. I decided that Mira had a genius of stroke, so I mimicked her behavior. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. The minute I entered the cantina, I thought I might have made a mistake. Everyone literally stopped talking and looked at me. Not just looked at me, but looked at me like I was bait on a hook. I decided to make a grand gesture, so I walked up to the bar and wrote, "I would like to buy a free round of drinks for everyone." The bartender smiled and said, "The gringo is buying a round of drinks." The patrons cheered, and soon I had more friends than I could ever wish for. Present, Ben, Jens, and others, arriving at the cabin. We finally arrive at the cabin, and quickly Mira complains, "Finally, we can extricate our corporeal selves from this overly crowded posterior seat." Fiona offers, "Ms. Mira, I could have sat on your lap." Mira backpedals just as quickly, "Sorry, Fiona, but that would not have been pleasant for me." Fiona doesn't give up and asks, "Why is that?" Jens answers, "Fiona, we will talk about this later." "Hey, I forgot to tell you, Desiree is here." Fiona and James get excited, and James says, "Good. We can tell her all about the terrible adventure we had." Fiona remarks, "I bet she gets scared." James says, "I know I was scared. The worst was when they took us away from Mama." I reply, "Son, don't worry. No matter where you are, I will always find you." We all exit the truck and find Liz. Bernie and Desiree are there to meet us. Present, Liz, Bernie, and Desiree, reunion. We heard that Ben and Jens had rescued James and Fiona. On hearing the good news, Desiree bugged the hell out of us, so we went outside and waited for them to arrive. Desiree complains, "When will they get here?" I reply with a euphemism, "A washed pot never boils." But instead of accepting my adult wisdom, Desiree declares, "Oh yes, it does." Bernie asks, "How do you know?" Desiree answers, "Because I have washed a pot, and it did boil." Desiree announces, "Finally, they are here." She begins to jump up and down until everyone exits the truck. Then she runs up to Fiona and James and gives them a huge hug. They next move to the side and begin to chatter like crazy. I walk up to Jens and say, "Good job getting your children back." Jens says, "It was a team effort for all of us." I ask, "Can you tell me what happened?" Jens pulls me aside and says, "They were taken by dark witches who have a compound with many captives." Before I can ask more, Destiny interrupts, "Jennifer, we have work to do." I smile at Liz and whisper, "We're going to do another sweat lodge ceremony to contact grandmother. Can you keep an eye on Fiona and James?" Ben walks up and adds, "Preferably indoors." Liz nods and asks, "No problem. Do you think the dark witches will come back for them?" Ben replies, "It's better to be safe than sorry." Mira and Ira approach, and Mira begins, "Do not worry, Mr. Blaine." Ira finishes, "We know these dark witches can be defeated." Mira continues, "So we will stand watch." Destiny motivates everyone. "We need to get moving." Inga approaches. Present. Inga, confrontation. I walk up to the Blaines and complain, "Just who do you think you are? Mounting a rescue operation without permission." Ben glares at me and demands, "Since when in the hell did we need your permission to save our children?" I pause at the confrontation, then continue, "Well, what about the other prisoners?" The FBI SWAT team couldn't find anyone at the compound. Destiny walks up and states, "Inga, I warned you once about annoying me. We're going to address that problem as soon as we change into proper clothes." I reach for Destiny's arm, but Ben grabs my wrist, stops me, and advises, "You really don't want to touch Destiny. Now get out of our way, and we will have your answers as soon as possible." Everyone heads inside, leaving me flummoxed. Then my phone rings. Present, Tom, calling Inga. I wonder if the Blaines are back at the cabin, so I call Inga and ask, "Inga, did the Blaines arrive yet?" She sounds exasperated as she answers, "Yes, my love, just a few minutes ago." I ignore her obvious frustration and continue. "So what are they doing?" Inga says, "I'm not really sure, but they said something about getting more information." Then she continues, "Tom, I hate to complain, but twice now I have been threatened by destiny." I have to stifle a laugh because all women love to complain, so I do a tactical redirection. "What were you trying to do?" She replies, "The first time I was trying to keep her from leaving, and the second time I was going to grab her arm until Ben stopped me." I think for a moment, and then I reply, "Inga, you should never try to touch Destiny without her permission. Please remember what she did to Bill Brown's arm." She answers, "Of course I remember, but it isn't right. Tom, I really wish you were here to handle this." I decide to humor her, so I reply, "Inga, I'm finished in the office for today, so I will be there as soon as I can be." Inga replies, "Thanks, honey. See you soon." Present. Liz, calling Samantha. After we get inside and get settled, I decide to call Samantha and give her the good news. She answers the phone and asks, "Liz, is there any news?" I joyfully reply, "There certainly is. Ben, Jens, Destiny, and the twins have rescued Fiona and James." I can hear the joy in Samantha's voice as she replies, and then asks, "That's the best news I've heard all day. So when can I come over for an interview?" I reply, "Not for some time since Destiny, Ben, and Jens are going to be busy." Samantha inquires, "Busy doing what?" I reply, "Figuring out why the compound appeared to be empty when the FBI SWAT team arrived." Samantha says, "That sounds like a story in itself." I answer, "You have no idea." I end the call and wonder if America would really believe in witches again. Present. Samantha, calling Stacy. I decide that my BFF would like to hear the good news, so after my call with Liz I call Stacy. She answers the phone and says, "Samantha, how are you doing?" I reply, "I'm doing great. I called to tell you that the Blaines rescued their children." I can tell Stacy is less than enthused as she replies, and then asks, "Oh, that's good news. So do you know who kidnapped them?" I answer, "Not yet, but I plan on doing an interview later." Present. Stacy, reaction to the phone call. After the call with Samantha ends, I swear, son of a bitch. Bill looks at me and asks, "Problems, Miss Summers?" I try to put on my game face as I answer, "It's just that the Blaines rescued their children." Bill replies, "That's great news. Do you know who kidnapped them?" I reply, "No, I don't." I think for a moment and continue. "So, do you still think we need the security team at Alexi's house?" Bill says, "I meant to mention that to you. I have mentioned it to some of our people, but every team we send over there complains like hell. I guess the place is a mess." I reply, "Perhaps we need to come up with some housekeepers for Alexi. Bill, why don't you head over there and take a look at things?" Bill leaves as I continue to fume over the Blaines' good fortune. Flashback. Masha and Tanya, the police arrive. 15 minutes later, the police finally arrived, led by the chief of police. He got out of his car and noticed me and said, "I should have known you were involved." Tanya retaliated, "What's wrong with you? We didn't do anything. In fact, Masha saved both of us from John Rowe. He had a gun and was going to force himself on us." The chief responded, "Where's the gun?" I pointed and replied, "After I disarmed him, I threw it over there." He walked over, picked up the gun with his bare hand, and asked, "Is this the gun he pulled on you?" Tanya complained, "Yes, it is, and you just contaminated the evidence. But don't worry, I took a video of everything with my phone." The chief ordered, "Let me see it." Tanya replied, "I will after I send it to my email address. I don't want you accidentally deleting it like you contaminated the gun." Tanya did some things with her phone. It took several minutes, and then she said, "Okay, I have a copy in my email, so now I will show you." She started the video, handed the phone to the chief, who dropped it, and it broke. Tanya swore, "You clumsy son of a bitch. You did that on purpose. You owe me a new phone." The chief countered, "I did no such thing. Keep swearing at me, and I will put you in jail." John Rowe finally awakened and yelled to the chief, "Good thing you're here. Masha assaulted me." Tanya countered, "She only defended us after you pulled a gun on us." John Rowe laughed, "Did you look at that gun? It's not real." "Chief, I want to press charges." The chief waved the gun and said, "Yeah, it's a stage gun like used in the movies." I realized we had been duped and the chief was probably in on this. I still complained, "How was I to know it wasn't real?" Tanya glared at the chief and said, "I dare the two of you trying to pull a shyster stunt like this." The chief laughed and said, "The only shyster I see is the lawyer right here." I took Tanya's hand and said, "Don't worry, Tanya. I'm going to call the base commander again and see if we can't get some help from the Marines." Tanya replied, "Good idea, Masha. He's already canceled leave for 3 weeks. Perhaps he would extend it to 3 months. The chief said, "We're taking you two to jail, so it will have to be your one phone call." We were placed into the back of the chief's car. John Rowe climbed into the front seat, and we were taken to jail. Flashback. Ben, Jack, and John. Midnight requisition return. I no sooner took out the Toyota by smoking the engine than it stopped, and 3 other vehicles swerved around it. I couldn't believe one of the vehicles. It looked like my old Dodge Ram had been converted into a tank. Metal plates had been welded all over it at various angles. One of the Marines yelled, "Shit. It's another one of their truck bombs. You'd better take that out, or we're all going to hell." I concentrated my fire on the truck bomb, which didn't have as much effect as I hoped. The scumsuckers had done a hell of a job converting it into a tank. Even from Ma Deuce, most of the rounds bounced off the plating. I noticed something the scumsuckers had forgotten and began to concentrate my fire on the front tires. Finally, the truck bomb stopped, but the other 2 Toyotas kept coming. I looked at the 2 Marines from the Humvee and said, "I think it's time to get the hell out of Dodge." They agreed, so I jumped off the Humvee and headed to the semi-cab. They climbed in the Humvee, and one of them yelled, "Take off, and we'll provide cover." I didn't need any further prompting, so I floored the semi and wound through the gears. I watched in the side mirrors and saw them smoke the 2 Toyotas. Flashback, Jennifer, after dinner. With the dishwasher handling the dirty dishes, I slipped off to my room to do my current favorite thing, study grandmother's book. I moved my hands like I normally did, but this time nothing happened. I tried it again, and still nothing. I wondered what was going on when grandmother appeared and said, "Jennifer, we need to have a talk." I asked, "Okay, grandmother, what are we talking about?" Grandmother replied, "Jennifer, for the present we need to stop your studies in the book." I smiled and said, "Now I know why it wouldn't appear. Why are we stopping my studies?" Grandmother answered, "Your studies are having a very bad effect on Evelyn. If we ever hope for her to come back to the house, then we need to temporarily suspend the studies." I wanted to say things were better here without her, but I knew better and instead agreed. "Okay, grandmother, you know best about this." Grandmother smiled and replied, "Yes, Jennifer, I do. And for right now, you still need Evelyn to be your mother." Grandmother left, so I decided to mess around on the computer. Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. The men complained to Kostia, "We thought you said they fought like crazy." Kostia laughed, pulled out the electronic bovine motivational device, and applied it to Myra's nether regions. I was amazed when she didn't even flinch. With frustration, Kostia tried it several more times, each with the same results of none. Then he threatened, "I will shove this up your butt if you don't respond." I couldn't bear to see that happen to my sister, so I yelled, "You son of a female Saluki, I will kill you." He came over to me, applied the electronic cattle motivational device to me, and I jumped like a fish deprived of water. The men cheered, aggressively jumped at me, and I bore the brunt of their punishments. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. Several of the women offered me favors for the drinks. I turned them all down because I remembered Maria, and I didn't want to cheat on her. Besides, there was no telling what sort of diseases the women carried. I checked the door, noticed sundown was approaching, so I wrote, "Goodbye, everyone. I hope you enjoyed yourselves." They cheered. I walked out the door and found my transportation for the border crossing. I climbed into the van, and we left this godforsaken town. Present, Ben, Jens, and Destiny, Sweat Lodge Part 2. Jens and I hurry inside, while Destiny leaves to prepare the sweat lodge. Jens sighs, "My dress is still damp from last time." I reply, "Jens, wearing it is more important than being comfortable, so you'll just have to manage." Feeling lighthearted now that we have our children back, she playfully says, "Ben, we could take our time before heading out to Destiny." I shake my head and say firmly, "Jens, that will have to wait. Right now, we need to figure out how to counter the witch's concealment spell." She sighs, "You're right, Ben. I just wanted to show my gratitude for rescuing Fiona and James." I reply, "Jens, there's no way I'm letting anything break up our family." We change and head up the mountain behind the house to the sweat lodge. As we arrive, Destiny greets us. Perfect timing. I just got the stones ready. We step inside, and almost immediately, Jens' grandmother appears. "Well, that was unexpected. I didn't know you'd encounter such powerful magic." Jens explains, "Grandmother, we rescued Fiona and James, but the witches have a spell that makes them invisible. Is there a way to counter it?" Her grandmother nods. "Breaking the spell requires dark magic, but there are alternative methods. When Ben deployed the gas at the compound, the witches became visible. It's a shame the FBI agents weren't there to witness it." Jens continues, "The FBI agents also became ill when they entered the compound. Is there anything we can do?" Her grandmother responds, "Again, breaking that curse would require dark magic. Anyone who enters the compound will fall ill, but the good news is it won't be fatal." She then asks, "Do you have any ideas on how to get the FBI to return?" I reply, "Yeah, I'll appeal to their sense of duty." Her grandmother suggests, perhaps a drone could drop the gas over the compound, making the witches visible again. Jens shakes her head. "Gretchen's drones don't have the range for that." Her grandmother smiles knowingly. "Of course not, but the FBI has a drone over the compound as we speak." I nod. "Then they could modify its payload to carry the gas." Her grandmother gives a final warning. Be careful. The witches haven't given up on Fiona and James. They will try again. I set my jaw. Not on my watch. Grandmother smiles and advises, Ben, it will not come to that. Grandmother disappears as the sweat lodge ceremony ends. Jens comments, Destiny, perhaps one day could we include Fiona and James in a ceremony? I would love for them to meet grandmother. Destiny replies, as long as you both explain to them what is going on, I believe that will be possible. With that settled, we leave with the new information in hand. Present, Inga, meeting with Ben, Jens, and Destiny. The Blaines and Destiny arrive. I sure want to give them a piece of my mind, however, I am going to give them a chance. Ben walks up and says, Inga, we need to reconfigure the FBI drone to drop gas on the compound. I ask, why is that? Destiny replies, if you do this, then they will see that that compound is not empty and the agents will be able to see the shadows of the witches and their prisoners in the gas. I begin, I'm not sure about. Jennifer interrupts. Listen, do you want to save the prisoners or not? If you do, then reconfigure the FBI drone. I change the subject. What about the strange illnesses the FBI SWAT team experienced? Jennifer replies, there's nothing that can be done about that, but the good news is that none of them will die. I head toward the conference room knowing this is going to be a very hard sell. Then I decide to give Tom a call. Perhaps he could help me. Present, Inga, call to Tom. I call Tom. He answers, and I complain. Tom, the Blaines and Destiny want me to have the FBI reconfigure the drone to drop gas. They say it will expose the black witches. Do you have any idea how to talk them into doing this? Tom offers, Inga, let me talk to them, and I will handle this for you. Do you have any information from the Blaines or Destiny about the strange illnesses the team experienced? I reply, they said there was no way to keep them from getting sick, but that it wouldn't be terminal. Tom swore shit. That information we need to keep to ourselves. Okay, let me give the FBI a call. Present, Tom, calling the FBI. Damn, how in the hell am I going to talk the FBI into reconfiguring the drone and heading back to the compound? Then I have a brilliant idea. I call the FBI and ask for the agent in charge. He comes on the phone and says, well, the compound was a total bust, and all that happened was my men got sick. I tease, hell, I didn't know you guys gave up so easily. He complains, we didn't give up, there was no one there. I continue with my taunt, that's because you didn't look correctly. Bring your drone back to the cabin, reconfigure it to drop gas, and you should be able to see the shadows of the witches and their detainees in the gas. He waffles, why should I do this? I offer, I tell you what, if there are no detainees and prisoners in the compound, I will buy you a bottle of your favorite liquor. He asks, anything I want. I reply, of course. He relents, okay, you've got a bet. I smile. That was like taking candy from a baby. Present, Liz, calling Samantha. Ben, Jens and Destiny approach. I walk up to them and ask, do you think you have time to do a follow-up interview with Samantha? Destiny declines as usual. I'm sorry, but I would not like to do that. Ben and Jens look at each other, and Jens says, Liz, we can do that, but I'm not sure that America is ready for what we need to say. I smile at Jens and say, Jens, you have to trust Samantha to ask you the proper questions. Ben admits, Liz, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. I look at Jens and confirm, well, I guess it's just you. She smiles and agrees, I guess so. I take out my mobile phone, call Samantha. She answers and immediately asks, can I interview the Blaines now? I reply, Jens is the only one that is available. Samantha says, good, I will be right over. I like her enthusiasm, however, I caution, you might want to have a little talk with Jens before the interview in order to properly frame your questions. Samantha confirms, okay, Liz, I understand. We can't be talking about witches during the interview. Present, Bill, Alexi's house. I really hate the idea of having to check on Alexi's house. Normally, I just go there to pick up the reports since he won't send them by email because it's not secure enough for the data he works on. Hell, if other companies intercepted the emails, it would seriously hurt Ms. Summers' company. It's a short drive to his house where I see the added security and can tell they're not happy about the assignment. I exit my SUV and they immediately complain, this is the worst assignment we've ever had. I nip it in the bud. It could be worse. You could have to go into the house like I have to. They laugh and the mouthy one replies, lots of luck. It's a shit factory in there. I wrap my shamrock around my face, knock on the door, and a very pregnant wife opens the door, recognizes me even with my shamrock, and says, hello, Bill. Please come into our house. I walk into the house, and the security team wasn't kidding. The whole house reeked of shit. It was so bad that my eyes even watered. I ask Yasmin, did Miranda and Irina return to the house? She replies, no, and I hope they do not because they are always yelling at us about almost everything. I'm sure it's about the mess they have made out of the house, so I tread carefully with the next question. Miss Summers wondered if you could use some help cleaning the house. Yasmin says, only if the cleaners were men, because, well, you know how Alexei is around new women. I want to say that I sure as hell understand, but I remain professional and reply, of course, I do understand. I will inform Ms. Summers that you would accept having male house cleaners, and we will make sure to keep the guards posted. Please let me know if Miranda and Irina return. Yasmin replies, I sure will. I hightail it out of the house, and the mouthy security guard says, what did I tell you? I grin at him and threaten, keep it up, and this will be your new permanent post. The Department of Social Services arrived and took custody of Linda. I wanted to call Louise to come and get her, but the chief had broken Tanya's phone. I was shocked that the chief of police and John Rowe perpetrated such a terrible act upon us. We were checked into the local jail, and I asked, when do I get my phone call? The chief laughed, when I say that you do. Tanya complained, Chief, you're just digging a deeper hole for yourself. John Rowe walked past and laughed. Now that's what I like to see, two birds in a gilded cage. Tanya laughed, at least I work for a living instead of spreading lies on the TV. You know, I think I will get someone to investigate your involvement in the assault gang. John replied with a sneer, go ahead. Perhaps you can get the Martina bitch to do it for you. Tanya complained, Chief, when does Masha get her phone call? It's been 10 minutes since she asked. The chief finally relented. Okay, Masha, you can make your one phone call. I asked, can I have my purse? The chief replied, no way. You might have a weapon in it. I taxed my brain to remember the number of the base, was sure I had it correct, put the quarter in the payphone, and made my call. I was rewarded when I recognized the voice of the base commander's aide. I said, this is Masha Reynolds. Is the base commander available? The aide replied, sorry, Masha, he is out inspecting the troops. Did you need something? I explained, yes, I do. I am being held in the police station's jail on questionable charges. The aide replied, Masha, that's terrible news. I will find my commander and relay the message. Don't worry, we will get you out of there as soon as possible. True his word, the aide must have found the base commander because the mayor walked into the police station and ordered, Chief, release these women immediately. The chief balked, but sir, they committed a felony. They attacked John Rowe. The mayor angrily said, Chief, either release them or I will fire you. The base commander just read me the riot act and said if they weren't released, he was going to cancel all leaves until their release. If he does that, it will devastate the town. The chief folded, okay, but they still need to face the felony charges. Tanya interjected, do you mean the trumped-up changes you and John Rowe conspired on? We began to leave, and the mayor asked, Ms. Reynolds, please notify the base commander of your release. I replied, first I need to rescue my charge from the Department of Social Services. If Linda is fine and returned to my custody, then I will call the base commander. We walked out of the police station, and I asked Tanya, where is the Department of Social Services, and how do we get there? Tanya said, we will take a taxi to the Department of Social Services to get Linda. I'm sorry that this happened. I complained. If the chief had not broken your phone, I would have called Louise to take her. Tanya swore, shit, I forgot about that. The city owes me a new phone. Tanya finds a taxi. We got in, and she directed the Department of Social Services. I was shocked when we arrived at the Department of Social Services. Flashback, Jack, Ben, and John. Midnight requisition return. The Humvee flashed its lights, so I moved over and let them pass because I sure as hell didn't want to run up on the convoy with our semi. John remarked, hey guys, I'm not sure we will be back in time for breakfast. Jack checked his watch and swore, son of a bitch, I think he's right. I looked at Jack and grinned. So then Lieutenant George is going to be up shit creek without a paddle. Jack complained, he's going to give Colonel Maggie shit about it. I laughed and corrected, no, he's going to try to give Colonel Maggie shit about it. And she's going to learn what we live with all the time. John said, you don't understand. If I'm not there to make breakfast. I interrupted, then the guys will have to eat MREs. Flashback, Jennifer, after dinner. Rats, I really wanted to continue the work on my magic. But grandmother made that impossible, and she usually knew best. That's okay, because I was working on some new computer programs anyway. I began to work on them, and then I heard Jed and Daniela arrive back at the house. I went downstairs and greeted them. Daniela had a big smile on her face, so I remarked, you look like the cat that ate the canary. Daniela looked confused, and Jed explained, Jennifer wants to know why you're smiling so much. Daniela complained, Senorita Jennifer. That is not a polite question to ask. Jed attempted to calm the situation. Jennifer, don't worry about it. We had a great walk, and thank you for giving Daniela your old shoes. I asked Jed, did you kiss her? Daniela stormed from the room and yelled, Senorita Jennifer. That is unacceptable. Jed smiled at me and whispered, yes, it was our first kiss. I was satisfied, so I went back to my room. Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. Costia's men were busy abusing me and made a grave tactical error. They ignored my sister while continuing my corporeal abuse. Mira slipped her hands to her front, worked her way toward the men's discarded outer accoutrements, and acquired a pistol. She began firing at the men, and as always her aim was impeccable. Unfortunately, at the first sign indicating news of bad, Kostia translocated from the area like a crying child. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. The driver asked, "Hey Gringo, what is in your backpack?" I wrote on the tablet, water and a few other things. "Are we picking up others on tonight's trip?" He replied, "Of course, we can't do a run like this without a full van." I was thankful to find the driver's elevator might not go all the way to the top floor. He didn't bother search me for weapons. He made a stop, picked up a young family, and continued on while he berated them. "Do not look at me, or I'll screw your wife." The family cowered in the back of the van, and the wife began to cry, so he continued, "Do not cry in my van, or I'll throw your butts out." The driver continued to pick up illegals and berated all of them even more than the young family. I decided that the driver was a real piece of shit, and after we crossed the border, I planned on administering retribution. Present, Samantha, interviewing Jennifer. I remembered Liz's caution from the conversation we had on the phone, and I know it's about the whole witch situation. Therefore, I will have to arrange the questions to avoid that topic, which will be a challenge. John and I arrive at the cabin and are stopped at the front gate where the security guard orders, "Please exit the vehicle so it can be searched." John and I comply with the order. The security guard searches the vehicle and says, "Okay, you can proceed." We drive up to the cabin. John grabs his video gear and we head inside. The cabin is still a hotbed of activity. I stop by the conference room door and overhear, "Yes, bring the drone in for a landing. We need to reconfigure the payload." I would love to stay and listen some more, but Jennifer walks up and greets me. "Hello, Samantha. I'm ready for my interview." I ask, with the conference room being full, "Where would you like to hold the interview?" Jennifer suggests, "Why not the computer room in the basement?" John remarks, "Jennifer, that would probably be too noisy." Jennifer replies, "Shoot, I didn't think of that." She pauses and suggests, "How about Liz and Bernie's bedroom? Fiona and James are there, and you could even talk to them." I waffle, "Jennifer, I'm not sure that would be a good idea." Jennifer scrunches up her face and asks, "Why not?" I reply, "You know the whole thing about you being a..." Jennifer interrupts, "Oh yeah, that might make things difficult." I agree. Yeah, it's going to be hard enough to interview you in the first place, let alone having your children included. Jennifer offers, "Well, I guess we need to use our bedroom." John agrees, that might be the best place. We follow Jennifer to her bedroom and begin to set up for the interview. Present, the FBI, calling Tom. I receive a call from the leader of the FBI, and he says, "Okay, we've got the drone reconfigured. Now we're going to see what happens." I ask, "Should I stay on the phone?" He laughs and replies, "Certainly. I want to hear your voice when I tell you there's no one in the compound." He says, "The drone is approaching the compound now. We're releasing the gas." Then he swears, "Son of a bitch, you were right. The compound is full of people and prisoners." I stifle a laugh and ask, "Are you going to haul over there and rescue the prisoners?" He dejectedly replies, "Of course we will." Then he continues and asks the question I hoped he wouldn't. "Do you know anything about my men getting sick the last time we were there?" I lie through my teeth. I don't know anything about that. He terminates the call. I decide to call Inga and give her the good news. Present, Tom, calling Inga. Inga answers and says, "Tom, I heard that the FBI found people in the compound." I reply, "They certainly did." Inga continues, "Did you tell them about the witches and the sickness?" I state, "Of course not. Their men will get sick again, but hopefully no one will die." Inga reiterates, "That's what Jennifer told me." I suggest, "Well, she was correct about the people and the prisoners. Let's hope she's right about this." Inga asks, "So when are you going to be here? I thought you were leaving soon." I reply, "I was going to, but then something came up." I can hear the rising complaint in her voice as she says, "Tom, you'd better get your butt up here soon." I decide to taunt her some. "Do you know what Mabel is making for dinner?" She sighs and replies, "Hell no, I don't know. Why don't you come up here and find out for yourself?" I can tell I pushed it as far as I can, so I reply, "Okay, Inga, I'm leaving for the cabin right now." Present, Bill, reporting to Stacy. I'm thankful as hell to be away from Alexi's house. The mouthy security guard was correct. The place smelled like a shit factory. I arrive back at the office and Ms. Summers asks, "What's the report?" I'm thankful that she's not asking about the Blaines, so I reply, "Miranda and Irina have not returned yet, so I am keeping the current security in place. Yasmin said she would notify me if they return, but she hopes they won't return." Ms. Summers asks, "Why's that?" I grin and say, "Yasmin says that they bother them all the time. My guess is it's because of the condition of the house." Ms. Summers continues, "Tell me honestly, how bad was it?" I complain. Even with my shamrock over my face, the smell of dirty diapers was overwhelming. I did ask Yasmin about house cleaners, and she wisely agreed that as long as they were men, they would appreciate it. Ms. Summers laughs. "Well, that was to be expected." I continue. "Yasmin isn't stupid, so she knows better than to let any more women in the house." Ms. Summers orders, "Okay, Bill, See if you can come up with some men to help clean the house. I tease, I hope they don't want hazard duty pay. Ms. Summers laughs and counters, it's your job to make sure they don't. The front doorbell rings. I look at the monitor and notice a couple that I've never seen before. I inform Ms. Summers, it looks like we have unannounced and unknown visitors. Ms. Summers looks at the front door monitor and speculates aloud. Who the hell are they? I caution, Ms. Summers, with all that's going on right now, I recommend that we talk to them over the intercom. Ms. Summers agrees. That's a wise idea, Bill. Please go ahead. I can't believe what they say when I talk to them. Flashback, Masha and Tanya, Department of Social Services. I was frantic about the Department of Social Services taking Linda and could barely contain myself as we were driven there. We arrived in the taxi. I dashed inside to the front desk and demanded, "Where's the girl you took from the crime scene attended by the chief of police?" The lady at the desk looked at me and replied, "I'm not sure we can release her to you. Are you her mother?" Tanya came to my rescue. "No, but she's the daycare provider and we need to see Linda immediately." The lady replied, "Don't you dare get huffy with me." Tanya quickly threatened, "Listen, I'm a lawyer, and unless you want a lawsuit, you'd better take us to see Linda right now." The obese lady struggled to get up from behind the desk and said, "Follow me." She took us to a waiting area, and I finally saw Linda. There was only one big problem. She was eating a bunch of canned fruit. I complained, "Don't tell me that you gave her fruit." The lady replied, "Of course we did. When they cry, we use it to settle them down." Linda saw me, ran over and yelled, "Masha." Then I noticed that her diaper was dirty, so I further complained, "Didn't you think to change her diaper?" The lady replied, "Sorry, I don't do diapers." I was flabbergasted and said, "Perhaps this place should be called the Department of Social Disservices." The lady mouthed off, "Hey, it's not our fault you were arrested." Tanya intervened before I could respond. "Come on, Masha, grab Linda, and let's leave." She continued by asking the lady, "Could you call us a cab?" The idiot lady replied with a snarl, "Okay, you're a cab." Flashback, Ben, Jack, and John, arrival at the Boo. We caught up to the convoy and finally arrived at the Boo. It was late, and John was practically frantic. "I need to hurry and make breakfast." I pointed at the approaching figure and said, "Not until we talk with Colonel Maggie." She walked up to the side of the truck and complained, "What the hell happened?" Then she looked at the patched sides of the trailer and continued, "It looks like you ran into some trouble." I replied, "Yes, sir. We certainly did." John interjected, "Colonel, sir, we were lucky to survive." Jack added, "Only Ben's skill at driving kept us from buying the farm." Colonel Maggie responded, "Well, I've got one pissed-off lieutenant. He's wondering where in the hell his two sergeants are." I admitted, "Yeah, we didn't plan on it taking so long." Colonel Maggie laughed. "Hell, it serves him right for being such an a-hole about everything. However, you need to unload the supplies you want to keep and catch a chopper back to the hospital." John remarked, "Colonel Maggie, you won't believe what we have this time." I laughed and said, "Yeah, the general's new coffee shipment had just arrived." Jack added, "Not only that, he had sirloin steaks in the cold storage locker." Colonel Maggie asked, "So how in the hell did you get all the food without a requisition?" I answered, "We were stopped at the front gate, but then we drove around the fence looking for a place to get through. We were stopped by roving security, explained what we were trying to do, and they were more than happy to help." Flashback, Jennifer, after dinner. Once in my room, I smiled about what Jed had told me and practically laughed at how embarrassed Daniela was. I sat down at the computer and continued to work on the programs. My computer beeped, which indicated I received an email. I opened it and was surprised at what it said, so I needed to investigate. I never dreamed about the can of worms that my actions would initiate. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. I complained. Kostia did not wait for me to shoot him. Ira said, "Of course not. A Panthera pardus cannot change its rosettas." I queried, "My sister, are you injured?" Ira replied, "Only my pride has been damaged." Mira, "Why did you not fight the attack?" Mira smiled and slyly stated, "I will never again give them the satisfaction of me fighting them in such a base manner." Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I feigned sleep so the driver would relax while I listened to him as he continued to berate the other passengers. My ploy worked because it didn't take long for him to reach over and grab my pack. I slipped my hand behind my back, pulled my pistol, placed it under his chin, opened my eyes, and the scumsucker was sweating. He said, "Gringo, there is no call for that. I was just letting you know we have arrived." I smiled at him, pulled out my tablet, and wrote, "Good, then you can get the hell out of the van." He complained, "Gringo, this was not our agreement. You cannot keep my van." I smiled and wrote, "I keep your van and you keep your life, so you decide now where it is fair." He bailed out of the van while the illegal aliens clapped. I took the driver's seat and moved out. Present, Samantha, interviewing Jennifer. We're all set up, so I begin the interview. "Hello, America. Samantha Stevens reporting for the Truth Network with excellent news. Jennifer Blaine's children have been rescued. Jennifer, how did you know where the children were being held? Jennifer replies, and I quickly understand it's a lie to help keep her secret. We had a tip from some friends on where they were being held. I continue. I hear that you formed your own team to perform the rescue. Why didn't you use the FBI or the Marshal Services? Jennifer explains, we felt that time was of the essence before they were moved again, so that's why we used a small team for the rescue attempt. I continue. Did you encounter any resistance? Jennifer smiles and again lies. We did encounter some moderate resistance, but it wasn't anything that Ben, Miranda, and Irina couldn't handle. I ask a final question. How do you plan on keeping this from happening again? Jennifer replies, we are increasing the security on the cabin area. I would mention more about specifics, but it's safer if I don't. I conclude with, there you are, America. James and Fiona are safely back home again. Present, the FBI SWAT team, rescuing the prisoners. We haul to the compound, which isn't empty like we previously assumed. The men begin to talk, with the major question being, how in the hell did they keep us from seeing them? I truthfully answer, I sure as hell don't know. One of the men asks, so what are the ROE rules of engagement? I reply, anyone that's not in the cages we assume to be a target. As we approach the perimeter of the compound, the sicknesses begin again. I look at my men and order, I don't care how sick you get. Ignore it because we have a more important mission. Several of the men vomit, and then I begin to feel sick too. Present, Tom, headed to the cabin. I figure I pushed Inga about as far as I could without incurring some wrath. So I head to the cabin and call her on the phone. She answers and I inform her, Inga, I'm on my way to the cabin. She remarks with some coldness in her voice, it's about time, Tom. I try to reconcile, sorry, but I did have some things come in I needed to handle. Inga complains, Tom, I really need you here to handle things with the FBI. I explain, sorry Inga. I'm coming now, so you don't have to worry. Present, Bill and Stacy, uninvited visitors. I contact the visitors over the intercom. Please state your reason for this visit. The man replies, we have heard that Stacy Summers has expressed an interest in black witches. We are both black witches and are here to answer any questions which she might have. This was the last thing I wanted for Ms. Summers, but I look at her. She smiles at me and says, Bill, please escort them into the office. I argue, Ms. Summers. She interrupts me. Bill, I was hoping something like this might happen. Now go and escort them into the office. I state, Ms. Summers, I will do this, however, I am searching both of them before I let them in. The minute I heard that they were black witches, I knew Bill would have a problem with it. I continue to watch the monitor as Bill opens the front door and begins to search the two black witches. I am surprised when he takes a pistol from each of them and places them into the lockbox by the front door. Because they are black witches, I didn't think they would need weapons. They enter the office and I offer, please take a seat. Can we get you something to drink? They take the chairs across from me and the man answers, thank you for the offer, but we're fine without anything to drink. I continue with some questions. I was surprised to see you both carried pistols. The woman interrupts. Please let us introduce ourselves to you. Then we will gladly answer all your questions. My name is Anita, and this is my husband Tony. We carry the guns because we are in the middle of a battle right now. I ask, who are you battling? Tony answers, we are at war with the Blaine family. I query, so your group is responsible for kidnapping Jennifer and her children? Why did you do that? Anita replies, Stacy, it was a misunderstanding between us. Bill scoffs and Tony threatens, Bill, don't make us put a spell on you. Bill pulls his pistol, points it at them, and says, I've heard enough, and you two need to leave. I order, Bill, put your pistol away. I'm not finished talking to them yet. Bill begins to complain, Ms. Summers. I nip it in the bud. Bill, do as you were ordered. He reluctantly relents, and I continue. You never answered my question about why you were carrying weapons. Tony gives a half-baked excuse. Ms. Summers, I don't think you understand the power which black witches have. We cannot kill someone with our spells. So for protection, when we are out of our compound, we carry weapons. I laugh and ask, so what are the benefits of being a dark witch over being a good witch? Anita answers, as you have been told, we can cast love spells to make someone fall in love with you. We had heard that you were interested in Ben Blaine. I smile at them and lie. I was. However, I am over him now. Bill looks relieved until Tony says, another thing we can do is tell when someone is lying, and Ms. Summers, you just told a lie. I reply, I was told that if I had you cast a love spell on Ben Blaine that it would cost me part of my soul. Anita explains, it's just a small part of your soul, and what is that compared to spending the rest of your life with Ben Blaine? I weakly smile at both of them and reply, I'm sorry, but I think you two are wasting your time. In truth, I won't be a part of this war you have with the Blaines. They look disappointed as they stand up, and I order Bill, please escort them out of the building and make sure to return their weapons. Tony says as they are leaving, here is our card if you change your mind. He sets it on the desk, and it magically slides in front of me. I watch Bill as he takes them out of the building, gives them their weapons, and then comes back to the office in record time. Bill remarks, "Miss Summers, I'm proud of you." I smile at Bill and answer, "Bill, Ben Blaine is not worth the cost I would incur if they did cast a love spell on him. I understand that the part of my soul they would take would make me more susceptible to their influence later." Flashback, Masha and Tanya, leaving the Department of Social Services. After we were totally insulted by the grossly obese woman, we left the Department of Social Services with Linda. I asked Tanya, "How do we get back to your car?" Tanya replied, "I could flag down a taxi, however with Linda there's a problem because she needs a car seat to ride in a vehicle." I suggested, "Tanya, you take a taxi to your car while Linda and I walk toward the storefront. Once you arrive at your car you can come and get us." Tanya replied, "Masha, are you sure? It doesn't seem safe after what John Rowe did to us." I grinned at Tanya and answered, "I would love the chance to meet John Rowe again, but this time I wouldn't be so gentle with him." Tanya cautioned, "Masha, remember that we're already in trouble for the little you did to him already. If you hurt him again, the chief would put you back in the jail." I silently swore after realizing Tanya was correct. Flashback, Ben, Jack and John, leaving for the hospital. I made sure I rescued all of the general's coffee from the load. Then we waited for the chopper to take us to the hospital. I remarked, "Thanks, Jack, for taking me on this mission. It did make me feel better." Jack asked, "So you're not going to take a job with the CIA?" I grinned and replied, "Don't tell me you were really worried about that." Jack confessed, "Yeah, Ben, I was. I sure as hell don't want to break in a new sniper." I said, "Come on, Jack, tell the truth. You really don't want to lose that Night Force scope on your M25. He grinned and admitted, "Yeah, I guess you figured it out." Flashback, Jennifer, after dinner. The email detailed a security issue with the power supply grid in the United States. I couldn't believe it, so I began to research the security issue and discovered they were correct. It was wide open to attack by almost anyone. I quickly dashed off an email to my college professor describing the security issue in detail. I did it with the best of intentions, not knowing that I was going to be in trouble for it. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. I suggested, "Ira, since you are not injured, we should translocate after Kostia to effect our retribution." I then realized that Ira had uttered an untruth. As she attempted to rise, she slumped back to the firmament and admitted, "I am regretful, Mira, that I cannot assist you at this moment." I translocated to her side and inquired, "Ira, what is wrong?" Ira grinned as of a sheep at me and replied, "My sister, it appears that despite my diligent fighting of their torture, I am slightly damaged." I checked Ira and silently swore. Those male offspring of a female Saluki had damaged the nether regions of my sister. My strategy of not directly fighting Kostia had initiated this damage. I began to minister to her, but the damage was severe. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I had a problem. I had taken over the van, but now what was I to do about the illegal aliens who were on this trip with me? I wrote on the tablet. What were the plans of the coyote? The mother of the first family replied, "He was going to take us to Houston." The other families echoed the same, so I decided to fulfill the contract and headed toward Houston. I didn't anticipate the issues this was going to cause. I was well on my way to Houston when the lights of a patrol car came on behind me. I pulled over and stopped, and I couldn't believe how fast the illegals bailed out of the van and took off running. I watched in the mirror as some men took off after the illegals while another approached my side of the vehicle. I had hoped he was State Patrol, however he ended up being Border Patrol. He walked up to my window and demanded, "I need to see your license and registration." I showed him my neck and typed a huge lie on my tablet, "Sorry, but someone asked me to drive this van across the border for him." He said, "This van is known by us since a coyote uses it to transport illegals, like the ones who just ran off into the night, across the border. You need to follow me to the office." There was no way in hell I was going to let that happen, so I leaned forward, pulled up my pistol, and aimed it at the Border Patrol agent. I could tell from the look in his eyes this was the first time this had ever happened to him. I slowly opened the door, marched him back to his car, cuffed him to the steering wheel, and destroyed his two-way radio. Then I went back to the van and continued on my trip. Present, Samantha, phone call from Stacy. As I finish the interview with Jennifer, my phone rings. I check the caller ID and see it's Stacy. I look at John and ask, "John, do you think you could take care of editing the interview with Jennifer? I need to take this call from Stacy." John replies, "No problem. However, if I take the van, how will you get back to your castle?" I reply, "Don't worry about it. I'm sure I can find a ride." John leaves. I answer the phone and Stacy says, "Sam, you aren't going to believe what just happened." I answer, "Well, don't leave me hanging." I get extremely worried when Stacy replies, "Sam, I just had a visit from two of the black witches who were responsible for the kidnapping of the witch bitch and her two witchy brats. I make sure to keep the concern out of my voice when I ask, what did they want? Stacy laughs, which makes me feel better, and answers, they offered to put a love spell on Ben Blaine for me. However, I told them the cost to my soul made it of no interest to me. I praise her response with great enthusiasm. Stacy, that decision is the best thing I've heard today. So what influenced your decision? Stacy confesses, you did, of course. I knew that you would be disappointed in me if I fell back into my obsession on Ben Blaine. I can't resist asking a loaded question. So the thought of being arrested again didn't influence you? Stacy chuckles again and admits, of course it did, Sam. There's no way I'm going back to prison again. Besides, my lawyers might not be able to get me off this time. I should probably tell you more about the meeting, so if you aren't doing anything for lunch, let's meet at the restaurant. I reply, Stacy, I would love to, but John took the van back to the castle to edit the interview and send it to the station. Stacy says, shoot, I really don't think I would be welcome at the Blaine's cabin. I guess I could send Bill to pick you up. I agree. Yeah, with all that's going on, it wouldn't be wise for you to come here. However, I don't think they would resent Bill coming to pick me up. Let me ask Ben first to make sure it's okay, then I will call you back. I end the call and go to find Ben. Present, Samantha, talking to Ben. I wander through the cabin looking for Ben, but I can't find him. Finally, I press the intercom button and ask, does anyone know where Ben is located? Ben replies, I sure do know where I am. What do you need? I inform him, John took the van back to my house to edit the interview and send it to the station. So I was wondering if it would be okay if Bill came and picked me up? Ben is back to his normal jovial self and teases, I thought your house was called the castle? I giggle and reply, Ben, I didn't want to be presumptuous. Ben continues with his teasing, since when? And of course Bill is welcome, just make sure he leaves the boss lady at home. I answer, don't worry about that since we've already had that discussion. With that finally taken care of, I pull out my phone and call Stacy. She answers and I confirm, Stacy, it's all taken care of. When should I expect Bill? Stacy replies, I figured it would be fine, so he's already left. I would say he should be there anytime now. The intercom rings and announces, Samantha Stevens, Bill is at the front gate to pick you up. I press the button and reply, great. Please let him in and let him know I will meet him at the front door. I head to the front door. Present, the FBI SWAT team, the rescue. We're all sick as hell when we arrive at the compound, but it doesn't stop us. We bail out of the vans and begin to fire at the captors that are not in the cages. We're surprised as hell when they begin to return fire, and what we thought would be a cake mission ends up going to hell. I call on my radio, we're taking serious fire at the compound. Is there any chance that you can do anything with the drone? The drone pilot replies, sorry, but not with its current configuration. I come up with an idea and order, well then flood the hell out of this whole area with the gas. The drone pilot replies, no problem. We have enough gas on the drone so that I don't think we will run out. I update the order, whatever you do, don't run out of the gas. The drone pilot complies with the order. It's better with more gas because the captors can't see us as well, but they still stick out like a sore thumbs. We make sure we take advantage of the situation. Present, Samantha, leaving the cabin. Bill picks me up at the front door, and as I enter the passenger side of the van, I ask, so tell me, what were the Black Witches like? He replies, I didn't like them one bit, and was concerned that Stacy was going to do something stupid like asking them to cast a love spell on Ben. I reply, that was my concern when she called me and told me about them. Bill interrupts, I forgot to tell you, they said that they are at war with the Blaine family. I ask, did they explain why? Bill answers, the woman told Stacy it was a misunderstanding, but I don't believe it one bit. I think for a moment and say, I think I will call the Blaines and let them know the Black Witches still might cause problems. Bill confirms, that's probably a wise idea. I would hate to see Jennifer and the children taken again. Present, Samantha, calling the Blaines. I take out my mobile phone, dial Jennifer's phone, and she answers, Samantha, what can we do now? I explain, some Black Witches met with Stacy. Bill overheard them say they were at war with your family. I thought you should know so you can protect yourself. Jennifer questions, please tell me she didn't ask the Black Witches to put a love spell on Ben. I put her mind at ease, Jennifer, don't worry. For once she made the right decision and rejected their offer. Jennifer replies, thank God for that. I'm tired of Stacy messing up our lives. I ask, so how do you plan on keeping the Black Witches from taking you and your children again? Jennifer replies, Samantha, I have a plan, but I'm not going to tell you about it because they might be listening. Thanks for the information. She ends the call. Present, Jens, rallying the troops. After Samantha's phone call, I know I need to do something. I grab Fiona and James out of Desiree's room, then find Ben and Destiny to explain. Samantha just called me and said that the Black Witches are still after our family. Do either of you have any idea how to prevent them from taking us again? I can tell from the look on her face that Destiny is thinking, then she says, The Black Witches shouldn't be able to attack if we are having a sweat lodge ceremony. James excitedly asks, does that mean we can finally see grandmother? Fiona adds, yes. I would like to see my grandmother because Mama has told us so much about her. Destiny says, I will start getting the sweat lodge ready. Ben and Jennifer, you know the drill by now. She leaves and I say, you two need to turn away while Papa and I change my clothes. I once again change back into the beaded dress that Ben and Destiny made for me. Once I'm changed, I say to Fiona and James, okay, you can turn back around now. Their eyes light up as they see my dress, and Fiona says, someday I would like a dress like that. James notices Ben's loincloth and remarks, not me, I want an outfit like Papa's. Ben says, for right now, both of you will have to wear what you have on. Then he continues and explains, it will be very hot in the sweat lodge, so you both need to relax as much as you can and enjoy the time. We're ready and begin the hike up the hill. Present, Tom, arriving at the cabin. I arrive at the Blaine's cabin. Inga meets me at the door and reports, the FBI SWAT team is sick, but have already killed many of the Black Witches. I question, what about the hostages? Inga explains, the Black Witches fired on the SWAT team, so they had the drone flood the area with gas, and were finally able to reach the hostages. I tease Inga, so did you find out what Mabel is making for dinner? Inga glares at me and threatens, keep it up and I will talk with Mabel, so she won't give you anything. Flashback, Masha, walking with Linda. Tanya left in a taxi, then I took Linda's hand and began to walk toward the storefront. It didn't take long until Linda tired, and I had to carry her. I was surprised when John Rowe pulled to the curb in his truck and taunted me. Hey Masha, why don't you get in my truck? I remembered Tanya's admonition to not attack him again, so I didn't reply. I couldn't believe it when he jumped the curb and began to drive on the sidewalk toward me and Linda. I began to run, and I could hear John Rowe laughing behind me. Tanya arrived in her SUV and pulled in front of John Rowe, effectively blocking his path. He didn't stop, but instead rammed his truck into the side of Tanya's SUV. He backed up and then continued ramming his truck into her SUV like a crazy man. Then suddenly his maniacal laughing stopped, and John Rowe left in his truck. Tanya jumped out of her SUV and asked, Masha, are you and Linda okay? I praised Tanya. Tanya, you arrived just in time as he was going to run into us. I am sorry about the damage to your SUV. Tanya replied, I can't believe how crazy John Rowe has become. I commented, I think he feels he has nothing left to lose, and therefore his behavior has no control. A man ran up and said, don't worry, I captured what happened on my mobile phone. Tanya asked, sir, would you please call the police with your phone? I frowned. Tanya noticed and asked, Masha, what's wrong? I explained, what will happen when the chief of police shows up again? Tanya replied, Masha, I need to file a report with the police so my insurance will cover the damage John Rowe did to my SUV. I asked, and how will you handle things when the chief of police arrives? The man said, don't worry, I have the proof on my phone. Tanya asked, sir, would you please send the video to my email address, because the chief of police broke my phone earlier today in an attempt to destroy another evidence video. She gave the man her email address. He sent the video file to her, and then called the police. Of course, the chief responded to the call. Flashback, Ben and Jack, leaving for the hospital. The chopper finally arrived, and Jack hauled while I struggled with the heavy-as-hell duffel bag full of what was formerly known as the General's coffee. However, it was now known as my personal coffee stash. I finally made it to the chopper door, fought to get the coffee duffel inside as the corporal who was door gunner complained, damn, what took you so long? I glared at him and replied, Corporal, shut up before I throw you out of the chopper. Jack added his 2 cents. Corporal, do you have any idea who you just insulted? You insulted Ben, and if you're lucky he won't kick your butt. The corporal fell all over himself when he apologized. Sorry, Sergeant, I didn't realize who you were, because your nameplate says Blaine. Jack informed him, Ben Blaine is his name, but I call him Ben because he kicks more, but then Carter has little pills. Once again the corporal apologized. Sorry, Sergeant, please don't kick my butt. I looked at him and answered, Corporal, do you think your butt needs kicked? He replied hopefully, no SGT. Jack commented, for a corporal, you learn damn fast. Flashback, Jennifer, a visit from. I had no sooner finished the email to my college professor when my computer went all sorts of crazy. I didn't like what I saw at all, so I rebooted my computer using a floppy disk so I could scan it for viruses. The scan came back negative, so I scratched my head and tried to figure out what was happening. I had just begun to troubleshoot the problem when Daniela knocked on my door and announced, Senorita Jennifer, there are some men from the government here who wish to talk to you. I wondered what in the heck they wanted, so I headed downstairs and was immediately intimidated when one of them flashed a badge and said, Ms. Donaldson, we're with the FBI Cybercrimes Unit and would like to talk with you about your recent computer activity. I remembered the email and how I checked the information and thought I might be in trouble for it, so I replied, What about my recent computer activity bothers you? The agent continued, Ms. Donaldson, we know that you accessed numerous points on the power grid of the U.S. Were you thinking of sabotaging it? I replied, not at all. I received an email that described the security issues associated with the grid and just checked it out for myself. I even sent an email to my college professor asking him about it. The FBI agent said, Ms. Donaldson, we need you to come with us. Rats. The one time I really could use Daddy, and he's at the hospital with Mother. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. I apologized, my sister. I am sorry my absence of fighting their assault precipitated these injuries. Ira gave a weak smile and said, it was worth it, Mira, because you were not injured. I asked, Ira, how may I assist you to heal? Ira answered, if you had something to take away the pain, it would be appreciated. I replied, unfortunately, my sister, I do not possess any analgesics. Ira offered an alternative. Then please just hold me, my sister. I held Ira and swore that I would make Kostia pay dearly for this. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I needed to haul if I was going to escape the problem this van created for me. I sure as hell didn't think that I would have to confront the issues currently in front of me. It was good that the Border Patrol agent didn't fight me, or I would have been forced to kill him. And that would have created more issues that I didn't want to deal with. I floored the van and was surprised when the tires smoked. Without the weight of the illegal aliens, this van could really move. Now if I could only make it to someplace close to a city where I could dump the van and acquire a different vehicle. Lady Luck must have been looking down on me with a smile. I came to a small village and there was a used car lot, so I pulled in and parked. A slimy-looking salesman came out and asked, how can I help you? I showed him my neck and wrote on the tablet, I would like to trade this van for a car. He looked at the van and said, I'm not sure we can do a direct trade. I figured he was going to shake me down for some cash, but I didn't like him, so I wrote, okay, that's fine. I will head up the road and find someone who will. I began to get into the van and he backtracked. Now wait a minute. Let's see what we can do. I stepped back out of the van as he began to look it over, checked the mileage and commented, damn, the van looks nice, but it sure has a lot of miles on it. He continued, however, I do think we can make a trade. Come over here and take a look at this truck. He ushered me to an old pickup and said, this is one of the vehicles we would trade for the van. Would you like to take a test drive? I wrote on the tablet, sure, let's do it. I hoped he would offer the test drive because I was going to take off in the truck and not come back. He handed me the keys for the truck. I tossed my bag in the front and climbed into the driver's seat, started it up, and left the car lot and the van behind me. Present, Ben, Jens, Destiny, Fiona, and James. Does the sweat lodge work? We arrive at the sweat lodge and I practically laugh when Fiona mimics Jens' previous statement. Mama, I had no idea this igloo was here. James shocks me a little when he says, I saw it before when I was hiking, but I didn't know what it was. Destiny quickly instructs, James, I sure hope that you didn't enter the sweat lodge without permission. James admits, I wanted to, but I couldn't get the door to open. But why should I not enter the sweat lodge? Destiny answers, James, this is not a tent to play in. If you entered it without someone here, bad things could happen. I promise, James and Fiona, we will set up a tent for the two of you back at the cabin. Destiny further instructs, James and Fiona, it is very important that you do not become overly excited, otherwise you will not see your grandmother. I add another reminder. Also, be careful not to overheat in the sweat lodge. Jens takes the lead. Well, let's get started. I notice she's shivering slightly, her dress still damp from the previous ceremony. I nod in agreement. Yes, Jens is getting cold, so let's see if this works. Destiny gives further instructions. James and Fiona, you will sit beside your father during the ceremony. We complete the pre-sweat lodge rituals. Jens enters first and takes her place, followed by me with James and Fiona. Finally, Destiny steps inside, bringing the heated stones with her. She places the stones in the middle of the sweat lodge, pours cold water over them, and begins to pray in Cherokee. We are hugely surprised when not only Jens' grandmother appears, but also my grandfather and many other Indians appear. Jen's grandmother sees James and Fiona and remarks happily, Jennifer, you brought James and Fiona for a visit. Jens replies, Grandmother, the black witches are still a threat, so we hope that the sweat lodge will protect us. She replies, Jennifer, that is why we are all here, to keep you and the children safe. My grandfather adds, Ben, we have come to keep you safe, so do not worry about the black witches. James whispers, Papa, who are those Indians? My grandfather says, James, I am your papa's grandfather, which means I am your great-grandfather. I tell James, I am not sure who the other Indians are. Grandfather replies, Ben and James, these are other great shamans and are here to do battle with the black witches. The Indians begin to beat a drum and chant in Cherokee, while Jens' grandmother begins to perform some magic, and then we are treated to a battle royal outside of the sweat lodge. There are hundreds of black witches who are decimated by the many shamans and Yin's grandmother. My grandfather then announces, Ben, the battle is over. Yin's grandmother adds, the black witches have been destroyed. Now, Jennifer, you need to return to the cabin for the arrivals. Yin's asks, what arrivals? Her grandmother answers, the FBI agents have rescued many children and women who were being held prisoner. Yin's cautiously asks, Grandmother, are you sure none of the women are black witches? Her grandmother says, Jennifer, there were a few that were black witches, but they have been taken care of. Jin says, thank you, grandmother and Ben's grandfather, for saving us from the black witches. The sweat lodge ceremony ends, and Yin says, well, let's go and meet all the new people. Fiona corrects, Mama, you mean new witches. James asks, Papa, can we do another sweat lodge ceremony soon? Destiny says, James, it is not wise to bother the shamans or Jennifer's grandmother very often. We leave the sweat lodge and hightail it down to the cabin to meet the incoming guests. Present, the FBI SWAT team, the rescue. Even though we were sicker than dogs, we still rescued many children and some women from the cages. We were shocked when several of the women we rescued disappeared, but I chalked it up to how this whole mission was one big cluster shit. We loaded everyone into the vans and drove back to the Blaine's cabin. We have another surprise when we arrive. Jennifer, Ben, and their 2 children are waiting at the front door. Somehow they knew about our rescue and are waiting for our return. Jennifer Blaine loudly announces, welcome everyone to our cabin. We will have food and drinks for all of you soon. Some of the women begin to cry and Jennifer begins to counsel them, while the Blaine children begin to play with the other children. I walk up to Ben Blaine and ask, what the hell is going on? He smiles and answers, we heard about the rescue and thought we would help out. Tom, the U.S. Marshal walks up, sees all the people we rescued, and says, looks to me like the mission was a success. I reply, barely. We were sick as hell, and then a couple of the women we rescued disappeared. This was the worst cluster shit of a mission I've ever commanded. Ben Blaine commented, hell, every mission I had in the Marines that involved a 3-letter branch of the government was a cluster shit. I noticed that Tom glares at Ben about the comment and decide that I need to investigate Ben Blaine's DD-214 document that shows military service record. Present, Samantha, phone call from Stacy. I'm at the restaurant waiting for Stacy when my mobile phone rings and the caller ID shows it to be Stacy. I ask, Stacy, where are you? I've been waiting forever. Stacy replies, Sam, the strangest thing just happened. I just had another visit from the 2 black witches, then suddenly they both vanished in huge cloud of smoke. I comment, Stacy, you shouldn't have met with them without Bill being present. Stacy poo-poos my comment, Sam, I told you that you don't have to worry about me and the black witches. I was just shocked that they disappeared. I will be right down for lunch. Bill has overheard the conversation and says, damn, I shouldn't have left her alone. I smile at him and explain, Bill, Stacy sometimes sends you on errands so she can do things that you wouldn't approve of. Bill swears, damn, I guess I need to make sure someone is guarding her when I'm not around. I concur, that would be a wise idea. Stacy shows up for lunch and I get the details of her meeting with the black witches. Flashback, Masha and Tanya, the chief of police arrives. The helpful bystander called the police on his phone and announced, the chief will be here in a few minutes. He asked that you wait for him. I looked at Tanya. She shook her head and replied, like I can go anywhere in my SUV. True to his word, the chief arrived in about 5 minutes. However, this time he acted totally different. He looked at Tanya's SUV and politely asked, what happened here? The helpful bystander replied, some man in a truck. I interrupted. It was John Rowe. The helpful man continued, rammed into her SUV many times. The chief shocked us when he called on his radio. I want an all-points bulletin issued for John Rowe. Tanya mistakenly asked, Chief, why are you being so helpful? The chief remarked with a funny smile, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I've always been helpful. Then he continued, you should rent a car to replace your SUV, and by the way, the SUV will need to be impounded for evidence. The helpful man offered, I can take you to a rental car agency. Tanya replied, whatever is the closest is fine with me. I wasn't sure about that statement, but I did not challenge it. We arrived at the rental car agency where I removed Linda and her car seat from the back seat. We entered, then Tanya opened her purse and swore, that scumsucker. He took my charge cards. I affirmed, do you mean the chief of police? Tanya said, yes, that's who I mean. Tanya walked up to the rental counter and asked, would it be possible to use your phone? The man behind the counter said, sure, as long as it's a local call and you limit the time of the call to less than 5 minutes. Tanya turned the phone toward her and dialed the number. I determined Tanya had called Gladys, one of her group of supporters. She told Gladys about everything the chief had done. I could hear Gladys yelling in anger through the phone. Tanya hung up the phone, looked at me, and said, Gladys is on her way down here to take care of the rental car. and then we're headed to the mayor's office. I was still not certain it was a good idea to make enemies of the chief of police. Flashback, Jack and Ben, arriving at the hospital. The Corporal Dorgunner really minded his P's and Q's for the rest of the flight. I guess we had put the fear of Ben in him. I leaned over and commented, "Ben, you do realize that Lieutenant George is going to be pissed at us?" Ben laughed and replied. I couldn't believe that Jack was concerned about Lieutenant George. I looked at Jack and answered, "I don't care if Lieutenant George has his panties in a bunch over both of us being gone. I guess for once he had to do some work." We landed on the roof where Jack pointed and noted, "Look who's waiting for us." Of course it was Lieutenant George, and he looked pissed off. As soon as we exited the chopper, he got in our faces and complained, "What the hell were you two doing? I can't believe both of you left here at the same time. I should have your stripes for this." I laughed in his face and replied, "So, you want to break the re-enlistment agreement I made? Fine, go for it, and I will leave the Marines." Lieutenant George immediately backpedaled. "Now don't get hasty, Sergeant Blaine." Jack added his 2 cents. "Hell, Ben, after a greeting like that we should leave together more often." I concurred, "Jack, I think it's time that we talk to Colonel Maggie about being reassigned." Lieutenant George confessed, "I want to apologize to both of you, but things have gone to hell without you two here." Jack laughed and commented, "Now you know why they have non-coms in the Marines." Flashback, Jennifer, help. As the FBI agents took me away, I asked Daniela, "Please call the hospital and tell Daddy what has happened." Daniela assured me, "Don't worry, Senorita Jennifer, I will do that immediately." The FBI agent said, "Calling your father won't help. We have you dead to rights for hacking into the power grid." Flashback, Glenn, call from Daniela. A nurse walked into Evelyn's room and said, "Sir, your housekeeper called you on line 1. I questioned, "Can you forward the call in here?" She replied, "No, sir. You need to come to the nurse's station to take the call." I excused myself. "Evelyn, I need to go see what's going on. I will be right back." Evelyn declared, "I bet that witch daughter of yours has gotten herself into some sort of trouble." I shook my head as I left Evelyn's room. She wasn't getting better at all. I followed the nurse to the nurse's station where she handed me the phone and pressed the line button. Daniela rapidly said, "Senor Donaldson, something terrible just happened." I attempted to calm her. "Daniela, calm down and slowly tell me what happened." Daniela blurted, "Senor Donaldson, the FBI came to the house and took Senorita Jennifer away." I bellowed, "What the hell? Did they say what they took her for?" Daniela informed me. It was something to do with something she did on the computer. I swore under my breath but controlled myself and said, "Thank you, Daniela, for calling to tell me this. Now I need to find out where they took her." I made a call to the base JAG officer. He answered the phone and I said, "This is General Donaldson. I might need your help." He asked, "General, what can I do for you?" I replied, "My housekeeper just called and informed me that the FBI has taken my daughter into custody. We need to get her back." He answered, "Sir, let me make some phone calls to see what's going on." I explained, "I'm at the hospital now with my wife, so call me here when you find out something." Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. As I held Ira, I remarked, "Sister, I am regretful that you were so traumatized." Ira replied, "No, Mira, I am remorseful that we cannot pursue Kostia." I comforted her, "Do not worry, my sister, there will be sufficient opportunity for that later." Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I was surprised that the dealership didn't ask me for a driver's license, but even more surprised that the truck had a full tank of gas. That was a good thing because I didn't plan on stopping for gas anytime soon. I was sure the Border Patrol agent had been rescued by now and that they would have all law enforcement looking for me and the van. I laughed about stiffing the idiot at the car lot. Then Murphy asserted his law and something bad happened. Present, Ben, Jens, Destiny, Fiona, and James, meeting the new arrivals. Jens comes over to me and asks, "Honey, can you find Mabel and tell her we have many more people for lunch?" I reply and ask, "Sure thing. What are we planning on doing with them for the night?" The head FBI agent comes over and asks the same question, "What are you two planning on doing with these prisoners overnight?" Tom interjects, "They have enough rooms in their cabin for all your prisoners. That is if you don't need to take them in for questioning." The head FBI agent replies, "We don't have the rooms to house them in, so if the Blaines will agree we could question them here. But only if the Blaines don't mind the company." Jens smiles and looks at me with a raised eyebrow. I nod my head. She understands and says, "We don't mind them staying here at all. But first we need to get them fed and make sure that any injuries are taken care of." I recognize my cue and announce, "I need to talk with Mabel about cooking for more people." I leave and see Jens go back to counseling the women and watch as James and Fiona continue to play with the other children. It's going to be good to have a full cabin once again. I make a mental note to make sure to increase the security some more. Then Tom walks up to me and says, "Ben, it wasn't a wise idea to tell the FBI about all the missions you had that were cluster shits." I ask, "Why's that?" Tom says, You can bet after a comment like that, they will pull your DD-214. I laugh and explain, let them do that because my DD-214 doesn't show any other missions besides those of my time with the Marines. Tom raises an eyebrow and asks, how did you arrange that? I reply with a line from a Garth Brooks song, I have friends in low places. Present, the head FBI agent, thankful. It's been a boon to us that the Blaines are going to house the prisoners since transporting them to Denver would have been impossible. The only thing I don't like is Jennifer Blaine talking to all the women before we get a chance to interview them. I walk over to where Jennifer is talking with some women. She looks up at me, smiles, and asks, hello, can we help you? I return her smile and answer, I was hoping that we could interview the women before you talk to them. Jennifer continues, sorry, sir, but that's not going to happen. These women have been through a very rough time and need help right now. If you don't like it, you're welcome to take them back to Denver. I backpedal, that won't be necessary. Jennifer smiles at me, and I can't help but wonder if she doesn't already know the logistical problems we would have in transporting them. Present, Samantha, Bill, and Stacy, lunch. Stacy finally arrives for lunch, takes a seat, and says, wow, that was an interesting morning. Bill complains, Stacy, you shouldn't have seen the black witches without me beside you. Stacy laughs and confronts him, Bill, who's the boss? Bill confesses, Stacy, you know you are, but I can't protect you if you take foolish risks. I don't like it when Bill and Stacy fight, so I intervene, Stacy, what do you want for lunch? As if he heard me, Chef Henri comes out of the kitchen with menus and announces, it's good to have someone to cook for. Stacy asks, don't tell me that we aren't busy? Chef Henri confesses, without Ms. Mabel here, business has really dropped off. Do you have any idea when she will be back? That information surprises me, so I offer, let me call the Blaines and see what their plans are. I pull out my phone, call Jennifer's phone, but I don't get an answer. I frown and remark, that's not like Jennifer. She almost always answers her phone. I continue, I think I will call Gretchen. I call Gretchen's number. She answers and I ask, Jennifer isn't answering her phone, so I wonder what's going on. Gretchen explains, Jennifer's busy counseling a whole bunch of prisoners the FBI rescued from the compound. I ask, is that the Black Witch compound? Gretchen confirms, that's the one. The FBI launched a huge raid and saved many women and children. Stacy waves, so I ask, do you know when Mabel will be coming back to the restaurant? Gretchen replies, I don't think it will be anytime soon since she's busy cooking for everyone. I end the call and Stacy asks, what did you find out about the Black Witches? I reply, the FBI launched a raid on the compound and rescued a whole bunch of women and children. Chef Henri asks, when will Ms. Mabel be back at the restaurant? I try to soften the blow. Henri, she's cooking for the Blaines and all the rescued prisoners. I don't think she will be back anytime soon. Henri began to mutter in French and left. Stacy laughs and says, Sam, it's a good thing you don't speak French. I smile at Stacy and reply, I don't need to speak French to recognize swearing. Stacy wonders out loud, I bet the two Black Witches' disappearance had something to do with the FBI raid. Bill laughs and says, it serves them right for taking women and children captive. Flashback, Masha and Tanya, Gladys arrives. Gladys arrived at the car rental agency, and I'd never seen her more agitated. She walked up to Tanya and remarked, I can't believe that scumsucker chief of police took your credit cards. Tanya replied, they were in my purse when he took us in, and now they're missing. Gladys replied, the minute we leave here, we're going to the mayor and get him to fire the scumsucker. I cautioned them, Gladys and Tanya, are you sure that is a wise idea? Gladys looked at me and asked, why wouldn't it be? I replied, John Rowe is already angry with us. Do we really want to antagonize his friend, the chief of police? Tanya looked like she was in deep thought, then said, Masha could be right about this. Perhaps there are other ways to handle this problem. Gladys asked, what sort of ideas do you have in mind? Tanya suggested, we need to focus John Rowe's and the chief's anger towards someone else, like John Rowe's soon-to-be ex-wife. I agreed, but with a caveat, Tanya, that is a good idea as long as we can make sure that she is safe. Gladys said, we could hire private security for her. Tanya replied and asked, with the way the men in this town stick together, I'm not sure that would work. However, I have another idea. Masha, do you think she could move into your house? I shook my head, replied, wouldn't that still focus their attention on me? Gladys affirmed and asked, she right, Tanya. However, we could have her move in with me. Now how do we focus John Rowe and the chief's attention on her? Tanya replied, that's easy. As her lawyer, I will demand that she receives 100% of everything that John Rowe has accumulated. I asked, is that normal in America? Gladys replied with a smile, that depends on the judge we get, and I might have some influence on who that will be. Flashback, Ben and Jack, the continuing saga. With Lieutenant George properly castigated, I decided to find Amir and check on the children we rescued. As I walked through the hospital, many of the enlisted men approached me and expressed how happy they were that Jack and I were back. From what they said, all Lieutenant George did while we were gone was complain and give everyone shit. A corporal approached me, and I asked, "Where's the teenage boy named Amir who I brought back with me when I rescued all those children?" He thought for a moment, and then shocked me by saying, "I think he left, but you need to check with the doctors and nurses to make sure I'm correct." I rushed into the doctor's lounge and asked, "Did the teenage boy named Amir leave the hospital?" One of the doctors replied, "He was bothering the nurses, so they threw his butt out of the hospital." I complained, "What the hell? That was the wrong thing to do," because the doctor stood up and said, "Sergeant, is that any way to talk to an officer?" I replied, "Sorry, sir. I can't believe he's gone, and that is what really bothers me." He showed his idiocy when he replied, "Good riddance to bad rubbish." I noted his name and decided if I ever got the chance he was going to have an accident. Flashback, Glenn, call from the JAG officer. I returned to Evelyn's room, and she demanded, "Well, was I correct? Did your witch daughter get into some sort of trouble?" I countered the question, "Evelyn, as long as you call our daughter a witch, they will never let you out of here." Evelyn shot right back, "Glenn, that's fine with me. Living with a witch is dangerous." I started to say something when the nurse entered and announced, "General, it's another phone call for you." I said to Evelyn as I left, "I will be right back." I followed the nurse to the station. She handed me the phone and punched the line button. The JAG officer said, "Glenn, your daughter is in a world of trouble. The FBI claims she hacked into the power grid, and they have proof of her action." I swore under my breath. What the hell was Jennifer doing? I replied, "Damn, when it rains it pours. I'm in the hospital with Evelyn, and now Jennifer has been taken. Would it be possible for you to handle this?" The JAG officer replied, "Don't worry about it. I will see what I can do, and will keep you in the loop." Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. I began to feel slightly better, so I suggested, "Mira, perhaps we can now pursue Kostia?" Mira replied, "Ira, do not burden your cerebral personality about the matter. There will be time to kill Kostia after you have healed." I moved to a more comfortable position and stated, "Thank you, Mira, for your tender ministrations." Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I should have known better. This truck smoked some, but then an ominous noise developed in the engine, a knocking noise that could only be attributed to the connecting rods of the engine. I slowed down, but it didn't help. The racket from the engine grew worse. Then there was a bang, a belch, and the truck died in a cloud of smoke and steam. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.